There we go. Good evening. All right, so this is a spontaneous cast born of two things. First of all, somebody went through withdrawal for the show I unintentionally created, and they said as much on Twitter. So I was like, I got you, dog. Um, but also, I'm going to be streaming on Friday this week. Yeah, on Friday this week. So I didn't want you to like go an extra day without having content. So here's, so I'd throw in a real quick bonus episode. But the real reason for it is somebody leaked photos of the of images from the battletome with their potato camera, and that actually caused Games Workshop to go ahead and make a community article that kind of revealed some more stuff. So there's just more Bonereapers stuff to talk about, and since the hype train for me has only been picking up steam, it's appropriate that we just kind of bypass the next stop and keep this sucker rolling.
Also, for a tinfoil hat moment, Good Painter Stormcast man thinks that it's not a leak; it's intentional.
Oh, I agree.
The pictures didn't show anything of any consequence, zero rules at all, with folded pages, like they're folding the page and then taking the pictures on a potato camera.
Weird angles and stuff. Like if you were really trying to leak this, like I was a guy who like busted into the back of a store.
Now that's a leak.
Correct.
Right? Where it's 100% of the rules and nothing else, i.e. the thing anyone only cares about, right? And nothing else. Like that's it wasn't necessarily a leak. It was they accidentally put it on sale for about an hour and a bunch of people bought it. But if it was a leak, they would have it would have been anything of consequence that people actually care about, which is rules.
Right.
Like nobody cares about an unreadable battalion or the back of the fucking book,
Yeah.
Or Archon's profile that, at least from the curled page, is the same as before, except in Spanish or Italian or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, Good Painter Stormcast man's tinfoil hat, which is actually reasonable at the moment, is like this thing was kind of on purpose, and then they come out with a bone to pick, fully written up article hours later with a title that seems to be like kind of a riff on the leaking process.
I think it's fun to tinfoil hat on this one, and I think
it's a fun one. It's a harmless one, but it's a fun.
Yeah, it's a harmless one. It's a fun one. If it's an intentional leak, very good. Like who cares? Like I'm happy that they did a 1-2 punch. It's very Nagashi-ian,
A jaunty foil hat. Well, okay.
Yeah, it's a fashionable.
Maybe a jaundice foil hat if we're talking about undead.
Yeah, a little bit of a good evening, Bucket Ninja. Welcome back. I'm doing this for you, friend. I'm just kind of clicking through these images right now, and they're so. This is not how I would take the pictures if I like saw this thing in a Games Workshop store in Spain or whatever, and I'm like, oh crap, the storekeeper forgot to put it away, and then I grab it and I start snapping photos. Like I'm just gonna open the page up, boom,
Yeah, they put the book on a table and then like lifted up all of the pages and kind of flipped to one, took a picture, flipped to another, took a picture, and then closed it.
Yeah.
So yeah, this whole process took like 10 seconds, I bet.
Yeah, why wouldn't you take a picture of Catacross's page? That'd be the first one you jump to, right?
This is a leak by a robot because it doesn't contain anything a human would find interesting.
Yeah.
And so in that case, it's not a leak. Like, who's sending this to their friend? Who that signed an NDA is sending pictures of nothing? Yeah. Basically just the book, to their buddy.
Unless if I may counter tinfoil hat with another tinfoil hat, like because we're going layers, we're going another layer deeper here. What if it is a legitimate leak, but the person who leaked it took photos in a very specific and technical manner as to not violate the NDA, and that's why they're weird and obtuse and reveal nothing. Like, well, technically, according to clause,
I'm pretty sure pictures of it at all is against.
Yeah,
I don't know what they're signing. I don't know what kind of thing they're signing.
Fair enough.
I don't have that information. If I did, my shows would probably be less interesting because I couldn't muse about stuff that happened to be right.
You know, this better be a Ma Tribe Thoughts and Ideas show if Heywoah is in here. I think we can. I think we'll manage with our segue on models.
Look, we can only talk about how excited we are for Bone Boys so long.
At least one more time.
With no rules spoiled at all. Right. Before we just start repeating ourselves, and at that point, let's talk about, the OGs, the Ogors.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this all started with Ogors. They're the other half of the Tithe of Bones from the original trailers. You have, like, Ogre Man and Tyrant, and he is upset that, like, the pact is broken or whatever. And then you have Catacrosis, like, retort video, and so it's like a back and forth between them. And so,
wait, are we implying that the Ogres are mad that the Pact of Bones is broken? Because from the video,
it seemed like
they were pretty pleased.
Yeah, they're happy.
Feeling hungry, lads. Objectives are back on the menu.
Yeah, well, I think it's like Catacross was like using them, or they were like, because they're mercenary. Ogres are famously mercenaries. Like they were merked out to like go free Catacross or something, right? Because Catacross is supposed to have been captive. Mm-hmm. And
I'm going to be honest, I didn't know that was his name because I saw him and he became Bone Chad in my head, and nothing has dislodged that yet. And so his real name has simply failed to stick. Yeah. At some point, I'm sure I'll learn it because I have to use things real names in my show.
See, I don't.
But sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just assume everyone will know what I'm talking about when it's sort of Japan.
Yeah, sort of Japan.
Or Velazada.
Right.
Or Falash. For Frostlord on Stonehorn.
Yeah. Well, there's when I was doing the NashCon recap, which is kind of what started this whole train in the first place. When I did the NashCon, I had to fight deep inside with everything to not say schemes really exaggerated every time.
Because of the Daughters of Cain, Choose Your Arm.
Yeah.
A scheming.
Schemes. Like
I don't know why that happened. It was truly. It must not have been a mistake. It must have been like a Manchurian Candidate. I must have heard somebody say that 20 years ago, and it just came out when I was reading the word scheme. It was like scheming.
Scheming.
And so it's gonna, some things, if it ain't broke, or if it's broke in the right way, don't fix it.
Right.
And so I didn't fix it for V2, and I will not in V3. She'll be, Marathi will be scheming forever, I guess.
Well, that goes into the non Bonereapers section of this RantCast, which is imperfections are important. Like you're not saying scheme correctly, right? And that makes the video endearing, and it adds these
or Gloomspite
bits. Like, yeah, there's a lot of that. For instance, me and Nagash, like, I've doubled down on it since y'all give me shit about it. I'm never going to stop at this point. I almost had, like, gotten rid of this terrible habit I had as a child.
Well, when you were a child, you read the word, and a lot of people who read when they're young, but don't talk to a lot of people, they just read. You don't say words out loud, you just read them, and so you tend to go phonetic with it a lot of times.
Correct. And then
And so you think a criminal gets indicted, right? Until you say it out loud and everyone laughs at you and you're like, oh, indicted. Okay.
Yeah, right.
The T be silent, all right.
Indicted is something else. Like, that's what happens after they're already in prison.
Yeah, when they're in the federal Keep the Content Christian channel prison.
We've got our mature tag. It's fine. All right, so I'm actually going to start with pretty much, I think, one of the only things one of the only valid things from this set of potato photos is terrain piece confirmed right here.
Yeah. Bone Tithe Nexus.
But I actually have had this page translated. I don't know if I'm allowed
because
to do
we're
that.
Professionals. I'm a disembodied talking head, but it's more so because that's what you are on my show, so Turnabout's fair game.
Right, it's Turnabout's fair
game. We had, this is in Italian? I don't know. I only know Italian from cards, so if it were something from Italian Legends, I would know. But
if it sounds like a pasta, it's Italian. That's how I can tell. And this doesn't sound like a pasta to me, so I don't know. But basically, so this is a Bone Tithe Nexus. We can't make out what the first section of things are, but basically, there's these later ones are punishments. So you have like punishment of pain, punishment of death, punishment of ignorance, and punishment of lethargy. And they all have varying ranges between like 18 and 16 inches, and they do spell-like things, but it's always on a die roll. So it's on a 2-up, it does a thing. On a 4-up, it does a thing. And I don't know how deep I can go on these without getting in big trouble, so I'm just going to stop it there.
What do you mean, big trouble? You signed no such...
Oh, you're right. This is just hard-boiled reporting right here.
This is fine. Yeah, this is reporting.
Yeah.
Somebody else broke their thing they signed, but you signed nothing. And now this is in a public place.
All right. So now that I'm just doing Big Trouble in Little Wisco, no. No, I think this is a terrain piece. Maybe it could be lores.
It would be a big...
But it's got keywords at the bottom of it.
Looks like terrain, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a big endless spell that looks like terrain.
Got a bunch of keywords, never mind. Yeah, endless spells don't have a bunch of keywords.
It's got keywords, though. And, so I think this might be the terrain piece.
But the dong doesn't expand like in Beast of Chaos, right? The bone is as big as it's ever going to get.
Yeah, you know? So the first one here
it's a shower, it's not a grower, in other words.
Yeah, I think it's just the rules don't seem to expand or change or anything. I doubt you can move it. So it's probably like a home base. The first set of text probably has to do with like actually giving you a resource to summon new constructs, would be my bet. But that's all pure speculation. Yeah, its placement in the book is where the terrain would be, about what, page 68 or so, near the back. So the first one is Castigo de Dolor. That's punishment of pain. Choose an enemy unit wholly within 18 inches on a 4-up, subtract 1 to hit rolls until your next hero phase.
Okay.
The next one is punishment of ignorance. Castigo de Ignorancia. Choose an enemy wizard within 36 inches on a 2-up, subtract 1 to rolls for casting, shooting, because there might be some translation fuckery there, and unbinding until your next hero phase. So that's probably, I think that one's overall the best one.
So like -1 casting, unbinding, and shooting ? Could that be unsummoning endless spells? Like whatever made up word they made for that could kind of sound like a synonym for shooting in Italian, maybe?
Correct. And then we have...
Because it'd be kind of goofy if something nerfed like spells and shooting in the same ability.
Mm-hmm.
But, could happen. Yeah. 36 radius?
Yeah.
From the edge of whatever this thing's base is. Oh, actually no base if it's trained.
This looks Fane-like to me.
Oh, yeah, there you go. In the picture, there's no base. Therefore, it's not an endless spell. We can shut the door on that one.
Yeah, that debate's over. Can't wait to try and rename all this shit to be way cooler for your Tomb Kings. I like the punishment thing. It shows to me that there is a wrong and they are extracting it. They're judging you.
That's Nagash's position. That's what his position has always been. He is wronged by Sigmar, who stole the good stuff from him.
It's very Hades.
Souls are juice, and Sigmar stole the good, the quality juiced up souls, the heroes and stuff. And Nagash made an army out of prisoners and low-lifes and stuff, and that's Nighthaunt. And it did fine, but he wants the good stuff. And if Sigmar's not going to give it to him, he's going to build his own, like Sigmar did.
Yeah, and then he just, instead of, cramming, the choicest heroes, he crams,
It's like 5 souls.
5 souls in one.
It's the old Blade of the Immortal inside joke. What's better than 1 sword? 13 swords.
Right. So, the next one up...
Cloud, what's better than 1 sword? 7 swords.
Or
I think that was when
just
he had it.
The biggest sword. The biggest sword. Advent Children, he has 7 swords, but they all become the Buster Sword or whatever at the end. Because it explodes apart and he just has all the swords.
Yeah, the Voltron sword.
Oh, so good.
Because sometimes, a bunch of swords is really cool, but sometimes you just need the biggest one.
Right.
So you can put them all together.
Right. He's a problem solver, they all ride really well.
Nagash is a whiny baby.
What?
Look, he is just Walter, right?
He is extracting
the way souls work in the mortal realms, like that's bowling. It's not Nam. There are rules here, right?
Mm-hmm.
He gets the souls. This is how it works. He just wants people to follow the rules. Sigmar went over the line, and he has to mark it 0, and that's it. Like, doesn't anyone give a shit about the rules?
Yeah. I mean, Sigmar's the one who fucking woke him up and bestowed upon him the charge of managing the souls. That's a real job. It's a tasking job. It's really fucking hard, especially with chaos, trying to corrupt shit and steal the souls too. Like, you give me this fucking job and then you fucking go back on it? Fuck you, dude. Like, no. No, he's like every pissed off worker ever. He makes total sense. I don't think he's particularly whining because he's too extracting, careful, and like most of his enemies he just waits for them to die and wins in the long run anyway. Like,
also, in fiction, you tend to like anthropomorphize gods to make the story interesting, but they're probably less human with human emotions and stuff than that is the case.
It's true.
Although it is myth, so perhaps it's just overblown, emotions of people.
Sure. But I think
Game Workshop didn't accept my short story Market 0, where Nagash just goes through the exact Big Lebowski thing with Sigmar.
Oh, that's so good. I didn't even bother submitting the fan fiction I just wrote. Did you get a chance to read that yet? Where like where Bone Chad defeats a Daemon Prince with his codpiece?
I mean, it was just too realistic. For fiction, I want a little more, make believe.
Yeah, a little.
Because
it's too realistic. Like I named the Birdman Crowbro, so like I have like the full names for all of them.
Like I wanted Bone Chad short story to just be about him skiing a double black diamond and like stealing Sigmar's girl.
Too far, Tristan. Like I have it like
no, he's a Valcel because Marathi was hitting on him, and he thought Begonded her. And this is true. Like this is canon in the book.
Mm-hmm.
So it's voluntary celibate. So it's Valcel.
Yeah. He thought Begonded Marathi and stuff. No, so like the next up is then it's Punishment of Lethargy. That's Castigo de Letargo. Choose a unit wholly within. So this is a wholly within 18 inches and fully visible. Roll a die on a 4-up. That unit cannot run until your next hero phase. In addition, they may only roll 1d6 to charge instead of 2d6. So this is really nice for like that jump turn.
Also works on a 3-up if your opponent hasn't fully painted his models. Because lethargy, like you got to get on that.
Yeah, you get a bonus. Yeah.
If they were still doing silly rolls, these would be a lot more funny, but much worse on the table.
Yeah, and so...
And what's the distance? 18, you said?
18 on that one.
Holy? Is it holy?
It is wholly within, so it's really going to just deny the one turn if you're redlining at your deployments.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to get that one catching on, by the way. Redlining is like a term for when you put all your models all the way up at the edge of the deployment zone. Because you got backlining and then redlining. It's perfect. So yeah, I think the Bone Tithe Nexus is a terrain piece. I think the terrain piece confirmed for these guys. Which is a step in the right direction, and something Night Haunt was missing. But this is speculation.
Also, the fact that they have a terrain piece probably means that they don't have grave sites.
Right.
I mean, we kind of suspected they wouldn't have grave sites for a variety of reasons anyhow, because these are constructs.
Mm-hmm.
And so the summonable keyword is probably not going to be on the stuff in this book, because they're not summoning them. They're constructing them, because they're construct. Or I guess we're assuming they're constructs, but...
Yeah. Yeah. So...
And so I think it's, the way they quote-unquote summon is probably a factory. Like a walking factory, for instance.
Which brings us to the one of the baddest named dudes on the planet. Like he is a bad enough named dude.
The Gothazar Harvester.
Oh, yes. It's doo like fucking like the double fucking bass drums kick in. Gothazar Harvester. Like that's so hardcore. Like the name. Rock out with the crock
Rock
out.
out with the crock out. Yep,
That's right.
This is it.
Yeah. So this dude now, and one of the reasons I wanted to do the hype stream is because I had like a check my like my privilege moment for like when I saw this model, where I'd been like stupendously excited about everything, and then I saw this model. I'm like, it's all right. Like I like, and like I was having the opposite reaction of like the, you know, because a lot of people were like, oh, lukewarm on the Bonereapers, and they saw this and they're like, this is awesome, and I was just like, it's all right, you know. Although I did get what I wanted, which was a Dark Souls monster. I wanted just this like this Bloodborne Dark Souls bone amalgam construct-y thing. That's exactly what this looks like.
Also, a construct of, because we were talking about Grave Titan before, where it's this giant made out of 30 zombies or 50 zombies or something like that. Well, this is a behemoth made out of a whole bunch of skeletons. So yeah, they kind of did that. It looks way different than we were imagining.
Right.
But again, like, a theme is, I'd rather them try crazy creative stuff and maybe go a little too far than be boring.
Yeah. Yeah,
and if you don't like the head, you can give it another head, and if you don't like the legs, you can give it another leg, you know. And if you, or an entire different bottom half or something. And if you don't like the reticulating tail that is a fist that just pounds at the end of it, by the way,
yeah,
then you're wrong, because that's awesome. That's just a great part of it.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's got different weapon options. That's cool. They showed the big Morning Star spike, and it almost went without saying. And in fact, it did go without saying because it was so obvious we didn't even mention it. But everybody was thinking it. Yes, this thing's armor,
Morghast,
and the fact that there's a whole bunch of skulls inside of its body, definitely Morghast, and the mounts
the Nether beasts.
The mounts that Mortarks ride. Exact same thing, or at least clearly built out of the same factory.
Dread Abyssal, that's right. I call it a Nether beast, but yeah, the Dread Abyssal. I
remember what those beasts are called. Yeah, that's it.
Dread Abyssals. Thanks, chat. Yeah, so like.
Also, I want, and because of that, I would like this as an alternative mount option for your Mortarks, because I want Archon to ride this.
Yes.
At least as a conversion, right?
Yeah. So I like.
If I ride it, I mean Archon is the guy underneath, obviously.
Yeah, so this model is unfortunately, I think, prone to being a turtle, because he's got like the flag.
Are we calling turtle a big, awesome looking thing that has abilities that you don't want in the army that it's in?
Yeah, kind of.
Is turtle like what we're calling Lotans, except monsters?
Yeah, that's what I think we're doing here. So this thing is in danger of being a turtle, right? He even has like a turtle head here. So it's like foreshadowing when he sucks.
Yeah, a little bit of a turtle head, though the first one. There is a gator head underneath for the alternative.
Right.
But I feel like, look at his back. That's a corpse cart. That's just straight up a corpse cart on his back. There's no way he doesn't have abilities you want in this army.
That's the hope. And of all these photos, the one that sells me the most on it is actually the one that's on that they showed from the table. And this one here, the colored background one. This is the one that most sells me on it, because the back down this angle looks good, the very very topmost one, but the back angle makes it look it's just weird, and it almost looks like a quadruped from behind, which was sad, and then you switch angles and it looks cool again. But really, it's this dude down here. It's groin dude that I'm just like, maybe he started out as a normal construct, and then they just kept adding stuff to him,
right, over and over, and now he's got all this. This is his armor, I guess.
Like, he's super happy to be groin bro, though.
Yeah, you can't feel bad for him because he is pleased with his job somehow.
Like, he's really happy about this.
You might muse about how he could be, but the fact remains he's got a big old smile, and he's got pretty good job security in the Nagash hierarchy, I would think.
Right.
he's picking up stuff. I don't know where I don't know how those arms are putting the stuff he's picking up all the way back there. Mm-hmm. But magic. Or he's real good at toss. Like
I imagine that the main body part just like eats whatever he like hands up to it.
Oh, and it just moves there through it. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
that's probably right.
Yeah, so I think that's probably what happens is this thing.
And there's a little burb here that's fighting with one of his arms to have a little bone. I feel like the burb's not going to get that. This is in the yellow picture.
There's a lot of burbs throughout. So we got like Vulture Bro here. Like there's like a lot of birds throughout the army.
Dude, think about how many bits are in like a kit like a Gorgon. Imagine how many options and extra shit you can put on this guy in this kit. I bet this kit's going to be completely awesome for conversion.
Yeah, Birdmaster or Crowbro, as I've been calling him, is on Big K's base. So, yeah.
Yeah, Birdmaster is.
Yeah. Yeah, so, like, this model here was the one that I actually got the lukewarm response to, like, personally. And that actually was a good feeling for me because I felt like my skepticism was coming back. Because I have been, since this army was announced, I have no, like, quality control or decent critical assessment from my normal, like, from just where I normally am. Like, I'm very skeptical.
Sometimes you're too excited to be, like, coherent, right? So It was good to come out lukewarm on something because you're like, oh, okay, I'm still in charge of my faculties. We're good.
Right. Yeah. Right. And then somebody released a meme with this thing standing next to the Necrosphinx. And I'm like, okay, I'm back. This thing looks awesome.
Oh, yeah, where he's like, stay strong, brother.
Yeah, he's like, stay strong, brother.
Yeah.
The stay strong meme. I don't remember.
Am I beautiful, Oniki, or whatever? I can't remember what the terminology was.
I'm trying to find it here real quick. But, and it's not that, like, I think this looks better than the Necrosphinx. The Necrosphinx, quite literally, is one of the greatest sculpts, I think.
Well, the Necrosphinx is so different, just from the top down.
There we go.
Like, Necrosphinx is a regal, beautiful, sculpture brought to life.
Mm-hmm.
And this thing is a heinous corpse factory, a heinous walking corpse factory. And those are like the two starting points they went from. So, of course, this one would be ugly and the other one would be beautiful. Like, it's kind of what they're supposed to be, right?
Well, that contrast was it's just what I needed.
Yeah.
Like, to see them next to each other, it somehow stay strong for mother. No, it brought it in where I'm just like, yo, I'm back for this because how I could see the, like, sort of artist's will with this creature, kind of like how you highlighted. This thing is, like, nasty and ugly and kind of in, like, the way it should be for its army. And it's just, like, it won me back over, so I'm back to, like, full hype mode, and there's not a model I'm lukewarm on anymore. Like, which brings us to the Ossiarch Bonereapers, like, shield dudes, the Immortus Guard.
I like these guys more than the combat versions, just aesthetically. Their shields are huge and awesome. I'm a huge fan of their helmets, like this German kind of World War helmet on a motorcycle almost, except with flanges. They're like super clavicle things, stopping people from decapitating them in one blow. Looks really great.
Right.
Big weapons, big legs. Yeah, I'm all about it. And they have these like giant smiles. A lot of people don't like the smile. I think it's fun.
I love it.
I actually do like it,
I'm not
in the same way that I don't like the Stormcast's zero emotion face masks, which is a cool idea in theory, but then seeing it on the table, it's a little boring. This one is personality, like death with personality.
It goes the opposite direction, like so hard.
And that's what I really like about it. Like this Death Army has a lot of personality. It's very arrogant, like both in the lore and represented in the models we're looking at.
Yeah.
And like I said on the show, and the arrogance is shown in their rules as well, which is very good. Like, that's fun. That's the type of good rules writing. I don't know the specific rules, but I know that he starts out pretty weak because you're fighting all of his lackeys first. because you have to earn it. Like, you don't deserve to face him until you've proven yourself against his hangers-on.
Right.
And that's just a brilliant mechanic, rules-wise.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably going to mean that he's not going to be amazing.
Right.
Because he doesn't start out great. He gets there.
Yeah.
And usually you just want stuff to be default great, right? But, you know...
Or he ends Gore-Trek great, and it's kind of worth it.
Yeah, or you just plow him into stuff. And like, go ahead, attack him. You know, who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. And going back to these guys' face masks, and this is just throughout the whole army, and I'm afraid I'm repeating myself here, but the Menuroi, the Mengu vibe, I really get that. Like, these are war masks, you know, made to... And even here we get to see like a little two-tone action, so they have like the jawbone and then the face is painted a different color scheme. Which isn't like... This isn't how I would do it, but this is getting people to start, I think, thinking a little bit more about how these are masks. You know, these are their war masks, and to paint them like red, not bone color.
Well, everything is a mask. These guys are created they're just built out of nothing, so everything is a mask in a way.
Right.
They're a bunch of bones that were sutured together with magic.
Right.
And so the question as to whether or not it's their real face is almost like a philosophical one at this point.
Ooh, but it's a fun one. So
there's that catapult in the background.
Yeah, we got the catapult here. Nagash, obviously, because just reinforcing that this is still a Legion of Nagash. But also, I think, very visually, like, showing this is the new wave. This is the next thing. Because even he's, like, well blurred and in the background. And then we've got Archon on his steed over here. And this is another one of those moments where I kind of, like, had to check my privilege. Because I was like... I don't want this to be Archon's army, you know? Like, Catacross has been... he's the Mortarch of the Necropolis. So I'm kind of, like, a little hesitant to be happy that Archon's getting a new War Scroll and pictured here. Because Archon's got his thing. And down the line, I fully expect him to betray Nagash, to be the counterpoint that everybody wants. Like,
He's been the most loyal right-hand man for 10,000 years. But, you know, then again... Things change, right?
The old
world anymore.
Yeah.
The longest. You say new War Scroll. I hope it is a new War Scroll. I hope they did revisit Archon instead of just copy-paste. I really hope that is the case. Now, from the page peel, we know that his wheel is the same, and some of his charting is the same. Still 4-up save, still 11 wounds, still star flying, which is 16, I think, to start. Possibly 18? For Archon, he's
16.
Fast.
16. He's 16 flying.
Yeah.
Yeah, Archon's cool. Like, lore-wise and flavor-wise, he's always been really cool. But his identity is...
I like him.
Is the first, you know, among Mortarchs, the Nagash's right hand, the most loyal. And I would like to see him getting a little bit more of a real personality than, like, the eternal second in command type thing. That's cool. It's a cool shtick. But, like, I think now that we are no longer in the world that was, now that it is the Mortal Realms, like, it's time to let him, like, stretch out his legs a little bit. It doesn't mean he needs to betray Nagash, but I think he can... There's so much to be done with death, because for 4 years, nothing was done with it, you know? And it's been such a... One, obviously, it's one of the main GAs, one of the 4 GAs, but also it's, like... a huge part of the backstory. It was all dwarves and skeletons building up the world when it was, like, approaching its golden age, the land of myth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, skeletons coexisting, or, like, ancestor ghosts coexisting with their like, successors and progeny and stuff in Shyish. It was actually kind of awesome. So
yeah, and a not oft mentioned fact about the old world, or about the Age of Myth in AOS, is that skeletons built most of it. You know, the great cities were built by the dispossessed, but skeletons built almost everything, at least in Shyish and some other place.
Right.
Because everybody was, you know, it was a world without lawyers, like in The Simpsons. Everybody was just holding hands and there's rainbows. Like, everyone was actually working together.
Right, right. And the pantheon was kind of getting along. Gorka Morka was out just punching god beasts in the mouth or whatever.
Yeah, Gorka Morka was killing god beasts just one after another. He killed almost all of them in the whole 8 rounds.
Right.
Um, because it was the only way for him to do something useful that wouldn't ruin everything for everyone, and
Right.
he kind of knew it, and everyone else kind of knew it, because he's so destructive and chaotic and angry that they're like, well, how can he help? Because the longer he stays around, the more likely he is to just start punching people, whether they be good gods or bad gods or cities or anything. And they're like, well, here's a bunch of impossibly huge god beasts, you know, the size of the Gulf of Mexico. Like, go fight those. And he's like, okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna smash him good.
So he just goes out and just goes on a tear. Yeah. So we got the stalkers here at the back too. We've also got regular Morghast hanging out over here. I think Archi, because they have the armor, the breastplate. And then we've got mounted character, which is kind of what I was hoping for, something like this to go along with the cavalry. So pleased. Obviously, we have no idea what any of the rules are. So this is purely as like a model and just sort of like seeing the design standpoint of like I do like they're being sort of consistent across the board. And then we got this guy over here, and this is one of those characters,
the Necro Lounger.
Yeah, the Necro Lounger. Unbelievable! Thank you so much for that follow there. And then you got like the Necro Lounger over here, and this is one of those things where the way somebody would say something negative about it, I would say that same exact thing, except really loud and excited. Which is like, ugh, he's a necromancer and he just made a bone lounge chair with his like awesome necromancy power. And then I'd be like, yeah, he just made a fucking lounge chair with its awesome necromancy power. If I had just one cantrip from Dungeons and Dragons, like Prestidigitation or like Mage Hand. If I had Mage Hand, my body would atrophy because I wouldn't move anything ever again without Mage Hand. Like, if it's too heavy, if it's more than 5 pounds, like, can't be helped, can't be moved. A cup of coffee is less than that. I would Mage Hand up my cup of coffee, like, take a sip, like, oh, it's too hot, and like, like, I just float it back down, like, open the fridge, like, I would just never move again. With just Mage Hand. I would get to the point where I wouldn't even move my mouth anymore. I would have one Mage Hand to, like, move my jaw up and down for me.
And that's how you talk. Your mage hands would press on your chest so that it would breathe for you.
So, like...
But now imagine you could create stuff out of bones and give it life. Yeah, hell yeah, you'd have a big lawn chair. Like... carried around by actually weird-looking legs.
Yeah.
But it immediately reminded me of MGS4.
Yeah, and you made it
so for specifically me, I thought it was cool. Because the legs like don't look cool,
right?
But they look cool to me because it's so obviously like a Metal Gear inspiration, or maybe it's not inspiration, but it seems like it was so similar that it really reminded me of the Gecko Walkers from the beginning of that game, and the meme made itself.
Yeah. So real quick for reference, in case we have some folks that don't play, I get a big image without going to your weird page. This isn't the best image, but... So here's a Gecko Walker, right? The legs especially. And then you just chop off the top half and put a lawn chair on it, and you have this dude. This is one of those guys where like... I dig the concept more than the aesthetic. And so I would... Where was I? I think I was on this one. No, I was on the blowout picture. I dig the concept more than the aesthetic, but it's like one leg swap away from me loving the model. So like whatever. Like it's fine, you know, to be 90% there on your aesthetic and leave some room for kit bashing. Than like Thralls, for instance. Thralls, there is nothing with my ability that I can do kit bash wise to improve that model. Some professional made like a model that is 100% what it's supposed to be. And so like what do I have?
They're regal dark elves from Hellboy too. Like they just look so good.
Right. Yeah. The Prince Nuada, that freaking badass. Yeah. Yeah. So there's like not much I can add to that conversation apart from making it mine and personalizing it. You know, throw like freaking the like really like wide rice caps, not the pointed ones, like the rounded ones. Like throwing those on them would look fucking like sick. Like with the little tassels hanging down too, that would be pretty cool. They already have the poses, and then just like you always have the hat, like Raiden style, in front of their eyes. But here I go putting more hats on robots.
There's also Coffin Man, dreadlock, skull, chest, Coffin Man.
Yeah.
Who I think looks totally sweet. Do you have a picture for that, or I can send one?
I mean, we kind of went over him in the previous ones. So
you did? Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, we like I love that.
Oh, that's right. We talked about that last time. Yeah, and the thing I found really awesome about it was all the heads hanging on hooks from his chains. They all have crowns, and so they're all kings.
And he's got space for one more.
What I really liked about it. He's got space for one more.
Yeah. So like he's the Coffin Man's one of those like.
And he tells a story. Like he has 3 kings hung from this thing, and 1 hook remaining, and he's showing you a contract where you need to sign.
Mm-hmm.
And so who's this guy talking to? A king, right?
Yeah.
He's talking to the 4th king, and he's like, are you writing your name next to the X, or does your head go on the 4th hook? And so I like models that you know the whole story of this guy just from looking at the model, right? Which is such a success.
Well, this is this is the guy I call like in Lotan danger. But like even while saying that, before knowing his rules, I already know I'm putting him in my cart for my pre-order. Like I don't even need to see his rules to know I'm buying that model because I love it that much. Same thing with Catacross. And then like the great shame will be I'll buy the army and it's just going to be like run all of the skeletons, the generic mounted man, like it's Necromancer Scythe Man, and then like that's the army. You know,
the worst outcome would be Nighthaunt.
Mm-hmm.
And Nighthaunt is a fun, cool army that's much better than it used to be.
Right.
But specifically talking about like models and what's good, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like the worst would be Nighthaunt or Idnath Deepkin. Because both of these share the same problem. It's you have all these fantastic looking things, and the best way to play Nighthaunt is with the generic foot hero, and none of the named ones. And the best way to play IDK is the worst looking, tiniest foot heroes, and then the worst looking cavalry. And so we can only hope that this one, at last, doesn't do that.
I've got faith. I'm not gonna like I said, my me falling off the hype train will happen when we actually talk rules.
Yeah, and that's going to be, like I was just thinking about that, that's going to be tricky for you. Not for me. It's going to be very easy for me, but for you, it's going to be hard. For me, it's going to be hard when Beastclaw or Maw Tribes comes out.
When Ogors,
and that's where I'll have my challenge. Because when Maw Tribes comes out, I'm going to be looking at rules from a lens I haven't looked at them through before, which is brand new stuff for the stuff I like.
Mm-hmm.
And normally I'm pretty objective about stuff. Perhaps brutally objective at times as far as rules go. But then here's a thing that I really want to be good and is going to be brand new and it's going to be the first time I'm looking at it. And so am I going to like round up everything because I'm excited? Or round down everything because I want to like counteract how excited I am, but then end up being wrong?
Because you overcompensate for your excitement.
Or worse, seen as the kind of guy who says his army isn't good when it is, because everybody knows that kind of guy.
Yes. Every Slaanesh player right now.
Okay. Yes, every single Slaanesh player, especially the ones that suspiciously had exactly 2,000 points prepared before the thing was even released. Especially those people. It's not that good, guys. Yeah. But yeah, you don't want to be that kind of a person.
Yeah. Yeah, and here's the thing is like Games Workshop has my money with these models. They know they fucking like Mr. GW is just like smoking a cigar, sitting in a lounge like in a high-backed like velvet chair, smoking a cigar and just like rolling the Churchill from one corner of his mouth to the other and just like
he's like tell you what, I'm gonna send you pictures of these, and then I'll just send you the bill. And
Right.
you're like, God damn it, you're right.
Yep. Yeah, and I'm gonna buy 2 or 3 boxes of the freaking skeleton cavalry. I'm gonna buy a box each of the stalkers and the immortus guard. I'm gonna buy one of the big dudes, one catapult to start. Like I just know, I'm just like hearing the cash register noise in my head every time I look at these models, and I'm just like, yeah, like no. Which incidentally, every dollar I make streaming is going to go to this army in the future. So.
Yeah, it's like a lot of streamers. They'll have a thing where it's like, buy me pizza or
beer. Yeah, beer money.
Your
coffee.
Your donations are used so that I can not take contracts I hate and do this show instead. 2 times a month.
Yeah,
like me. And yours is going to be, give me donations so that I can buy Assyrian Bonereapers and then tell you about how sweet they are.
Yeah, it's
like that's not bad.
Like I need to offset the cost here.
Mm-hmm.
Like how much money I make streaming in the next couple months directly correlates to how happy Molly is with me versus how. Oh man, but the GW finally got me. And it's funny because, I came into the game and everything's like kind of new when you first get into it, so you're sort of excited. But I've become I've leveled up. I've had a lot of skepticism. I've taken a lot of time thinking about a second army and so on and so forth. And caveat, this is still my first army because I view all of
still death.
Yeah, it's still death.
Look at Nagash is in the picture. It's his army.
Yeah.
So this is technically still the first army.
Technically the first army.
The fact that you'll have like 4,000 or 5,000 points of it, that's still one army.
Right.
Still just 2 armies.
Yeah, I'm still good with the 2 army rule. I'm still on a technicality.
I have a lot of points of Beastclaw. We could do a dark artisan style like big narrative game. Like it could.
Oh,
I have like possibly 3,500. Maybe 4,000 points of Beastclaw and Gutbusters.
Mm-hmm.
So
I've got a
could
lot
be
of death.
Nagash leading 80 skeletons plus Black Knights plus 1,800 points of Bonereapers versus like 4,000 points of Maw Tribes the entire Sunday afternoon, and actually record it with phones.
Oh yeah. We'll record it with phones, do the nauseating straight top-down angle that gives you no idea of depth.
No, we're using phones, so the angles will be decent. Actually.
Oh, okay. All right.
But we'll cut out all the dice rolling because nobody wants to see that.
No,
if you cut out the dice rolling and just talk about what happens, it cuts an hour off of the average.
Doom's got a pretty good format
Doom's got
right
a good
now.
way of doing it.
He's got a pretty good format right now for bat reps. He's been refining the process for a while.
Rerolling ones and Doom and Darkness are the 2 bat reps that I'll actually watch on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
There are probably plenty of other good ones. I'm not searching for them though. That's my caveat.
Right. Yeah, I hope they jump straight to Battle Force Box too. And give us these guys versus the Ogres. And then we just split a box and both of us are happy.
Also, there's going to be a foot hero whose rules are insane that only comes in that fucking box for a year. Ugh. And so, we're going to have to get that anyway. For instance, Relictor or what's the it's not Slaughter Priest. What's the name of that corn guy with the banner? I'm blanking on it. It goes in every fucking army.
I don't.
Spinal, it's so goofy. Wow.
I don't remember. There's the one hero.
It's something like Blood Secretor. That's it. Yeah, Blood Secretor.
Yeah, Blood Secretor.
How could I forget? Huh. Yeah, he only showed up in giant boxes forever, possibly still. I haven't looked. Sylvaneth's Arc Revenant only comes in the Loon Curse box. So if it is Ogres versus Bones, if it is meat versus bones, then we'll at least each have whatever new foot hero with great rules they'll come out with.
Perfect. Yeah.
Did they ever release the Skaven Rocket Man? I'm not sure.
The Bombardier? I don't know. They usually come on a blister pack down the line, right?
Usually, yes, but some specifically never. even though a bunch of people want.
It's so weird that they would do it that way because they can just make money. I know they have to sell their starter boxes, but they'll probably sell them anyway. You know? And especially if you just on a delay release the blister down the line. Like, it, whatever. Instead of having us go on eBay and dealing with the secondhand market, that's just simply not fun. So yeah. Obviously I'm still excited about these guys. The Ossiarch Bonereapers. I freaking love this picture, by the way. That's another thing that I wish I could get a little bit more readily.
It's holding an orc head. Uh-oh, could it be Bonereapers versus Oryx? But I thought it was going to be Cities of Sigmar and Oryx at the same time.
I don't know. Maybe they just forgot. Concept. I like the proportions on the groin man here a little better, because it's like it's growing out of his brain. Like he is having this nightmare, and this nightmare monster.
You think he's a groin man? He's not. This whole thing is just his brain. Like that's how brain his planet.
Yes. Yeah, like that's it. Galaxy brain. This is the galaxy brain of Ossiarch Bonereapers. Like,
Bone factory brain. Yeah.
Yeah. Like this is like I love this. This is awesome. So this kind of like segues into what I really wanted to talk about with the Galaxy Bone, with like Ogors and stuff. Like I think that the reason sometimes things are polarized in views. There's the concept in design, the 2s and 9s, right? You want things to be just like universally loved or universally hated by whatever random person. You just want them on both sides. Every person, you want them to either have an opinion of a 2 or 9. You never want someone lukewarm on something. Which is
that's a Mark Rosewater rule of design, where if you have a card that everyone votes on how much they like it, and everyone says it's a 7, counterintuitively that's bad, or rather not bad, but it's worse than half the people saying it's 2 out of 10 and half the people saying it's 9 out of 10, because now you have something that really hits people, half people. It really hits them that they love it, and then other people at least feel strongly enough about it not to like it, and that's great,
right?
Because you want to hit those 9s and 10s any way you can, even if you're hitting 2s on other people. Right. And then there's discussion. How could you like this? How could you not like this? That's good.
People like me get fired up.
7s across the board. 7s across the board where everyone's just kind of in agreement. That's a tad dull.
Yeah, and then you get like the opinions, the debates, the wheel turns and turns and turns. People like me, get on a soapbox and just, no, this is great, this is great, this is great. I generate other interests for them. If I was lukewarm on it, I'm not making 3 shows worth of content about how great I think these guys are.
It's like pineapple on pizza.
Right. And
because some people feel so strongly about not liking it that they make memes about how it doesn't even belong. And they're like, culinarily wise, this isn't even something you should ever do, And then other people like it. And that's better than 7s, where it's just boring.
Yeah.
Like
it's like pepperoni. Pizza. It's like pepperoni. Ooh, like cheese pizza. Too soon?
Too soon.
Too soon.
All right, I'll give it another 10 years. It's an old meme, sir, but it checks out.
Yeah, this checks out. Yeah, so you want those strong opinions on either side of the scale, and I think part of how that's achieved is essentially the quirks of something. I mean, I think you've got 2 things at play here, and this happens in Age of Sigmar. This went back before I even knew Bonereapers were about to be a thing. I wanted them to. I kept using vampires as my example for the new Death Army. I'm like, I don't know, sky vampires. I don't know, whatever. Like, just throwing it out there as...
Pirate vampires would have been cool.
As
with shade glass ability, yeah.
Yeah, with shade glass abilities and like a elite foot troop, that comes in a group of 20 or 30. Like something like that would be really sweet. But like the whole point of that wasn't that's what I wanted. That was just throwing it out there to express that I wanted to see Games Workshop just come at it sideways and come up with something the way they did KO. Every time they've released...
Yeah, and this is supposed to be distinct from Other Death. And what does Other Death do? It spams, like, tons of tiny troops. Basically.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's different builds, but that's, like, how you're supposed to play it, quote-unquote. And so, unless they mess up what they were intending, which does happen from time to time, and it makes for great content, right? Because you get to point that out in hilarious ways. But this army is clearly not supposed to be all of those 25 millimeter or 25 mil shield men.
Yeah.
And then like a nameless hero. Like that's not their goal. If that's how people end up building, because that's clearly the best way to do, then like it's a huge failure.
Yeah.
Because this is supposed to be death in a different way. It's a different death. Night Haunt was a different death because death is slow. And it foot slogs at 4 inches for the most part, except for the heroes. And Night Haunt here, it's like,
fast,
armor's
teleporting,
decent, ethereal,
yeah.
Everything flies. Literally everything flies.
Yeah.
Is there a non-flying unit in Night Haunt? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. And the other thing they did was like the notion of like elite troops, like actually being elite,
Mm-hmm. And that's what this is. Like we have elite death. It's got ranged units. Because the worst thing would be every death faction is kind of the same.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they have to share similarities because they're in a Grand Alliance. But playstyle-wise, they should be very distinct. And so far, they are.
Well, like Order, for instance.
Night Haunt plays very distinctly from LON.
Oh, they play like a destruction
very
army.
much so. Yeah, the Night Hunt is a destruction army. It's just cosplaying with a sheet over its body.
Yeah.
Because you're playing the slot machine for those natural 9s and re-rolling successful charge to get them.
Yeah, burning all your command points.
Play like that.
Yeah. So I think there's the design coming at it sideways. I think they've proven to me they're like the proof of premise. Like I see that in the models. I feel it in the story. Their arrogance. Fight me on my level, Mr. Catacross, where you just fight me on my level. Like I'll fight you on your level. Like I like that's all there. And then now the next challenge then becomes like visual, and you have to tie the visual into your theme for the army, which again Bone Constructs, that one's pretty easy. But then they freaking cranked it to 11, which is where you get your take, and I think it might be in your like getting started video where you do like the army breakdowns, where you mention like you'd rather them be too. Well, I won't paraphrase you. I can have you say it. You'd rather them be too like go too far than not far enough, right?
Creatively with
yes.
The models, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So creative.
That's why it's characterful. That's why it's so interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's why, we have two Age of Sigmar, dwarf armies.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like, take one part of a dwarf concept and just turn it up to 11. Like AOS might as well be taking some stock fantasy idea and then turning it up to 11 or 12.
Right.
And it might be too far, and it often is. But that's why it's cool.
Right. And I think...
Is this a show, by the way, for pointless guessing about what mechanics are going to be?
If you want to throw in some... It is a RantCast, so I'll let you throw it in.
All right, I got one. And this can't go on... So this is the perfect place for it. So here's my... I don't even want to call it a prediction because it's not. What is it that they say on Warhammer Weekly when they're like, wouldn't it be cool if the mechanics were this? And it's not really a prediction, but it's just like a good...
Well, you're just spitballing.
Neat idea of a direction they could go. Sure, spitballing. And although, another tangent here, Frank on the Rocks has the perfect sentence that I'm gonna have him sign a contract, later on, so that because I'm just stealing this sentence.
Okay.
And I hope I remember to write it down. But AOS is fantasy. So it's taking fantasy and then just doing that again to fantasy.
Yeah.
It's like if fantasy was a filter that, increased the luminosity, you would just Control F for Photoshop people.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be blinding and perhaps too much. But anyway, so...
it's fantasy. I love that too. Use it with love, he says. Yeah, we're stealing it forever. This is now going into the lexicon of Age of Sigmar content creators. Yeah. Just like sort of Japan, just like I'm trying to get Redline trending. Like this is it.
Yeah, I know it'll go in some sentence where it's like, Lord of the Rings is a mythology kind of based on the World War, except fantasy version of it. And so Age of Sigmar is the fantasy version of fantasy.
Yeah.
But anyway, what I think about what they could do rules-wise for Bonereapers, like no grave sites, no summonable, because these guys are constructed and they're crafted. And then look at Galaxy Bone here. This guy started out as a dude with a big brain, and then his brain just started putting stuff onto it. Extra arms, armor plates, a million skulls, a cool head, and then just all this other stuff on the back. He's like picking stuff up and putting it, like building himself. What if instead of summoning or bringing stuff back to life or returning slain to whatever or adding stuff to your army, over the course of the game, you're mechanically, rules-wise, putting extra stuff on all of your guys. So, like, this thing collects stuff, and there's some sort of resource with it. But you're, like, putting extra armor or extra heads and arms and stuff, just rules-wise. Like, bolstering your troops that are still alive.
They're leveling up and shit?
Yeah, they're, like, everything is, like, leveling up over the course of the game.
Oh, that'd be so metal.
And so, like, by the end of it, if you were modeling towards, if this was like a computer game, you know, instead of the model is what it is, by turn 5, your like basic troops have like 6 extra arms with swords made out of other people's bones, and you know they're all on walkers like the necromancer, and they just like keep putting stuff on all these guys.
I love that,
because the Mortarch has a theme of starting out kind of weak, and then you're fighting successive dudes, and then you finally fight him. And so what if that concept is expanded army-wide, where it starts out, you're pretty good, and then you keep, like, bolstering stuff and improving stuff and putting things on them, and, like, you're not bringing stuff back to life.
Yeah, your numbers are
regenerating
shrinking.
Units, and you're not even necessarily healing or anything. But the dudes that are left are just, like, getting better and better, because the more stuff that dies, the more raw materials you have to make the dudes even better.
Yeah, that are left, they're just getting like tinkered up and shit. Like, that's really awesome. It fits the verisimilitude, you know, of...
And it's the exact opposite of the kind of thing that LON is about, where skeletons are only good at 40, and at 30 they get weaker, and at 20 they get weaker, and at 10 they suck.
Right.
And for these guys, it's like the opposite, where none of their rules at all give them anything based on how big of a unit they are. It's just over time they get better and better instead. And so then it would be a departure from LON's rules conceptually as well in that way. So that's my bold, not even prediction, but just like this would be cool, and it seems to fit.
That sounds awesome. Clearly Games Workshop already has the rules written down, but like it's time for them to revise them and put that in there. If they haven't already. I mean, it's a really cool mechanic. The other thing I was thinking is, like, you don't have a summon board per se, but models actually say "King me," you know? Like,
yeah.
Like you.
Like, what about this? So now we're going into crazy land, but you know those 25 mil skeletons with shields, your basic troops?
Yeah.
Well, if we're looking at Immortalis Guard, you can't just buy those. You can't put them in your army. That's what your battle line looks like when they level up enough, and then you use those models instead. Like, you place them down.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be... See, that would be really awesome.
Like, it's sort of like everybody's a little Marathi, right? That eventually, like, they level up enough, and then you place the Immortalis down. And it's like, no longer are they 25 mil dudes, they're like 50 millimeter, you know, gigantic. Now they have 4 arms, now they have the big shield. You can't even buy them and put them. You can't even put them in your army. They're not even a summoning board. You just bring them along, and it's like your 10-man unit of 25 mil skeletons. You know, by the time a few of them are killed, and you've constructed enough, and you have
enough resource in the game.
2 of the giant harvester guys. Come turn 3, you're like, okay, this 5-man unit of battle line. Like, you remove them, and then you put 5 of the Immortalis Guard, like the gigantic guys, down, and like that's what those actually are.
Yeah.
And it's the only way you can do it.
That would be so fucking cool. like it'd be I mean, it's impractical because if they're like surrounded by bases, but then that could be counterplay. Like you can only level them up if they have the space to, right? So like if they're locked in combat and you surround them with a unit, then cool, you have counterplay mechanic. But like it'd be pretty cool if you did.
And it solves the main problem with my idea, which is, well, if the guys are getting extra arms and all this other cool stuff duct taped onto them, your models still look the same. So obviously not, right? That's a problem. Well,
yeah.
After a certain point, you switch them out with this thing, and now there's visual going along with the rule.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's like super just spitballing, making crap up, but wouldn't it be cool if? So I guess back to the main point though is, I think we have a really good proof of concept, really good proof of premise. Like I think that Games Workshop's design team, I want to like actually like personally thank each of the designers on this army, because I think they nailed like everything 12-year-old Andrew, reading at the height of reading fantasy and dreaming big would have thought of, and like made it just really, really cool, in the just all the right ways for me. So I want to thank them, but like obviously then you have people on the 2 side of the spectrum. I'm certainly the 9. Well, I'm probably the 11, honestly. But like I wish I could go off the scale. This is an 11.
Well, I think a lot of the 2s really just wanted what they always said they wanted, which was just Tomb Kings.
Yeah,
like, that's what they wanted. I don't blame them.
Right.
But that's what they wanted, and this isn't.
And this isn't that.
It's just not Tomb Kings. That's almost certain. In fact, it's 100%. Like that's where they started. They're like, we're going to reimagine Tomb Kings. Is probably the first thing they said when they started even conceptualizing this army.
Right. And a lot of that.
But when you reimagine something, it ends up really different by the end.
Yeah, if this was like they might have actually started with we're going to make Tomb Kings for AOS, but we got to make it like legally distinct from Egyptian generic stuff so that we can actually copyright it and not get screwed like we did at the end of Fantasy Battle, because people weren't even buying our models anymore, and there was no way to like encourage or enforce it really, apart from like community policing, which only goes so far. And like so like problem, we want to make the new Tomb Kings. And that might have been how they started. But then they added another thing and they reimagined it, and then they got to like that point where like, okay, we have a finished thing. Well, now we need to revise it. And like I've told stories. It happens in writing all the time where I'll lose entire characters. One character like 3 characters become 1 character because I don't need 3 to do what I'm trying to do with the story. Like, it happens constantly. I've shown the camera, like, over here on the side, I have a bunch of note cards taped up in the shape of a mountain, which is the plot arc for the book I'm working on. Like, not all of this will make it into the final finished product. The rough structure will. The idea I had. But with something like this, where you have multiple people working on it, you probably have, like, essentially what is in film, like, you have a continuity edit. They probably have a continuity type edit thing where someone goes through is like, okay, do all the models fit the theme? And that might be where like they had a what's the coolest model Tomb Kings have? For me, it's Necrosphinx. And they're like, this current a bone brain man here might have actually started out looking very similar to like a Necrosphinx in the initial like concept drawings. But then they had to go like further and further. Like he's got the hands that are like the blades coming off here. Just like how the Necrosphinx has the blades coming off the forearms. They might have had to go far and further. Snakes are the coolest.
Yeah, I think it started out, they're like, well, this is the Construct Army. And as soon as it was the Construct Army where they were building stuff out of bones, Necrosphinx was just straight off the table. Same with the snakes.
Yeah.
Like before one drawing even happened, they're like, this is the army that Nagash is bada bada bada, and talking about that, and the super Egyptian stuff and the models that were already there, that was already gone. Even at that point, like before anyone drew anything.
Yeah, and one of the commenters in my chat on the previous video actually brought up like something I would love to see GW do. I think it solves all the problems to many people's satisfaction. Release, you know how like Blood Angels and I think even like Blood Angels just have a bits box, and I think a lot of the various Space Marines do, where you just get like a bit box and it comes with like shoulder pads and a bunch of like iconography to take the basic army and then just like you glue all these bits on instead, and like now you have, it's not Ultramarines anymore, it's Blood Angels, and so on and so forth. Like, you could do something like that with this army, where you sell separately bits that when you kind of total them all up, you start to get more of the Tomb King's aesthetic, which would be pretty cool. And then it's just like, now only the people who spiritually feel like they're Tomb King's players are mad. And, you know what? I'm a Nagash player, so double guns. Nagash won. I'm sorry. It sucks for you, but there we go. There's all the like the hate I've been holding back to since you called Nagash a incel there, Tristan. It's but no, like, but a lot of it comes with like the subjective, and this is something I preach about in all of art, in all of writing, and all of things. Like, you can have a robot make something more perfect. We're getting to the point, especially with like music, where like what you can do synthetically speaking, like compositionally, especially since like music is math, you can really just have a robot write a song, and what ends up happening is it begins to lose its identity. Video games are doing it right now, where like Ubisoft is sort of infamous for this. They have teams of 1,000 people, and they outsource to a team of 1,000 people to design a game. So you have a game that is technically well designed in terms of like the dungeon is programmed correctly. All of these things are done well.
Yeah, each work that the artist did is good under the constraints of what they were told to do.
Yes.
Like, they all produced competent things.
Yeah.
And then you put it all together and it's the blandest.
It's so bland.
Thing ever.
It's so bland because you lose a sense of the identity of what it was even supposed to be to begin with. And more importantly, I think it's the you lose the feel that there's a artist behind it.
Yeah, it's a procedurally generated world instead of one built by a person. And so there's no interesting nooks and crannies.
Mm-hmm.
There's no art, there's no human hand behind the artistry of it. The story is as generic as possible because it has to hit all the beats, and then here's the betrayal and all this. Like, everything is kind of watered down to be just sort of really almost not really inhuman, but kind of is. Mm-hmm. That's why you need a strong iron fist in control of everything.
A great director, right?
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, but the director or the person that's really in charge of everything, that gives you the chance for it. Mm-hmm. It can fail. There was, what's his name? I believe his name is Some Guy, was given just about full control over The Last Jedi. And that's
George
like
George
what
Lucas.
That's what I keep.
He needed someone to tell him no.
What?
George Lucas, you mean?
No. The Last Jedi is an episode, 9 or something. They gave him complete control over everything. He got to write the script. They didn't say this had to be here, this had to be there, and he was the director as well as the writer, and it sucks. So this isn't like, as soon as you have a director in charge of everything, now it's going to be great. It just gives you the chance at it.
Right. Soul versus soulless. Yeah. That's certainly a little bit what we're touching on here. I think with art especially, and entertainment especially, that humans want to feel a human being responsible for the thing.
Yeah, Banjo-Kazooie. Yeah, and it's Ryan Johnson. That's it.
Yeah. So like, sorry. Welcome to the stream there, DaHobbies. Or is that DaHobbles? That's DaHobbles. Dwarf player, potentially a gnome in D&D.
What did Ryan Johnson do? Oh, he did Looper. That thing was okay.
Looper was fine.
It wasn't bad.
It was
neat. Like, it was neat. You know, and then he did Star Wars. That's basically it. Like, I guess he did Brick.
The story in Looper was so contrived that it was difficult to get behind it, right?
Yeah, but the characters even tell you that. Like, they had that funny little, not to tangent too much, but they had the funny little scene where he's talking to his older self in the diner, and he's like pointing out loopholes in the script, and the guy's just like, "Don't worry about it. Like, I'm gonna be Die Hard for the next 15 minutes. Is that okay?" And the audience is like, "Yes, that is okay. Please do that." And then he did. It was great.
Yeah. But no, like, what it is like why I'm so into indie video games. Why I think D&D resonates so strongly, even if your GM just tells the same modules as another GM, because each time you play that game, you're gonna quite frankly, you're gonna fuck it up. The imperfect aspects, dice in D&D give you an opportunity to be imperfect as you play. Like, it's going to be more resonant when you notice the imperfections. Like, you pick up this object and you go over it in your hands, and if it's a perfect sphere, you put it down and it's uninteresting. Unless you're weird and you just love spheres. But if you prick your finger on it, because it's not a perfect sphere, it's got these edges, it's got these cavities and crevices, you're going to remember that. You know, for this, there's plenty for me, for the Bone Daddy's army here, there's plenty for me personally to prick my finger on because I love it. And for other people, like, it just doesn't jive with them, it doesn't connect with them because it's not in they're weird. It's not their type of weird. It's my type of weird. You know? And whatever artist made this is my type of weird. You know, it's Stephen King is technically a very strong writer. He's longer-winded than even he should be, and he knows it. Like, in his writing,
and he'll say as much. Yeah.
Yeah, imperfection.
Like, he knows he tends to create a few too many strands and tends to have weak endings, but he's like the first person that'll tell you.
Yeah, because once you start to create art, it kind of takes on a life of its own, which is another aspect of it.
I would say that, you know, there's beauty in symmetry, but there's interest in imperfections.
Right.
So you just have to decide which one you're going to go for.
Right, and even with like photography, because, you know, talking to Tristan, I learned a little detail about him on my previous cast, is that he actually was in photography, and, you know, you're taught in photography that you actually, unless it's exactly the thing, you should never have a perfectly symmetrical shot, because it becomes uninteresting. Your eyes instantly, you know, with magazine covers and stuff, there's actually a study done where, like, they were photoshopping too much, and so, like, everything is just forgetful and immemorable. You can't remember the cover of a book that's too symmetrical.
Yeah, I mean, without touching on it in too great of detail, you can look up the rule of thirds, and that talks a little bit about it, although that's not the whole picture. But yeah, you shouldn't have really symmetrical shots, and the ones that you do feel strange. You get the uncanny valley from it, which is why when you know that rule and break it on purpose, which Stanley Kubrick was famous for doing in his movies, you can create some really unsettling imagery from things that just kind of aren't supposed to be based on your composition. And he's pretty famous for making very, like, symmetrical, strange shots. In fact, now when you have shots that are very symmetrical, or everything's focused on one thing in the middle and then it's just duplicated elsewhere, they call it like a Kubrickian shot or something.
Right. But basically, like, I think that, like, Age of Sigmar has, even more than like Warhammer Fantasy, figured out this sort of rule of imperfection, the 2s and 9s, the come at the army from a separate, from, like, just a different angle.
It also makes for dynamic miniature silhouettes as well, when you're not symmetrical and you just have not just movement, you know, or implied movement of the model, but also this side's different than that side, and this one has a different thing than that one. Why does everybody think Fire Slayers look the same? Because some of them really are bilaterally symmetrical. and it was noticed like right away and immediately locked onto as a meme, like to make fun of that.
Yeah. Yeah, too symmetric.
But then in faces, we find symmetry beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But if you try to reproduce that, you get the uncanny valley, so far anyway.
Right.
So it's just an interesting whole can of worms, I suppose.
And I'm not here to like to prove scientifically that this is like that I'm correct, but it's just something
even then there are rules
and exceptions,
or not even rules, just ways people tend to relate to certain things in art. Mm-hmm. And then even then you can break those as long as you break them on purpose, like Kubrick, for instance.
Right.
And it can still work.
Happens in writing all the time. For instance, I begin sentences with conjunctions. I will begin an entire sentence with a conjunction because why am I breaking the rule? Oftentimes it's for flow.
Well, if you're going to speak it out loud, mm-hmm. It's almost like a note to yourself to beat before it mm-hmm. or after it.
Yeah, and you're setting up beats essentially in your paragraph or.
Yeah, you can really tell when you're reading something whether they're the kind of writer who either intends for you to or reads it out loud themselves when they're writing it.
My poetry, for instance,
because it flows a lot better.
Yeah, my poetry, for instance, is all playing with literary rules. It's a lot of, it's basically every poem I ever write is just metaphor and then playing with punctuation and rules of writing, like even apostrophes and stuff like that, where I'll do a double entendre by removing the apostrophe on its, not as a typo, but to like imply the ownership, and when not it is. And some people might think it's a typo, but then you go back and you read it a second time and you can be like, oh crap, he really meant, like,
Well, yeah, saying it is, even though you probably just should be its, that's implying a heavier accentuation on the is part of it. Because mm-hmm. if you're reading it
flows. It's
such a throwaway. If you read it is, you're kind of
adding.
You're kind of stewing on that is a little bit. It's more important. It's you're supposed to consider something when you're saying that.
Right, and then if you remove the apostrophe
yeah.
Oh, you can continue your point.
No, go ahead.
No, if you remove the apostrophe, like its life, for instance, like if I have a single line in a poem that's broken up and I'm calling attention to its life and I take out the apostrophe, I'm now implying, whatever the previous thing was, or usually I'm writing from a disembodied concept of what's going on. Like I'm implying its and then the subject of the poem, like its life, that things. And so like you play with things like that because you know the rules. And I think their sculpture team, Keeper of Secrets, great looking model.
Dude, all their new sculpts are amazing.
Just like Gloomspite
They even made Gits look cool.
Oh my god, the impossible!
By injecting them with a giant turkey baster of flavored juice, and just made everything so character. Like, consider a race that we're into opinion land. Grots and whatever they used to be called, goblins or something. Mm-hmm. To me, aesthetically, they're little snot creatures in robes. I couldn't care less about them.
Also, in the lore, they get eaten or whatever, right? Like,
and their sculpture team is like, hold my beer, and then, like, now they're fucking amazing.
Yeah, some of the best sculpts in Age of Sigmar right now, and this is coming from the perennial death player, and, like, I have to play an army that looks like it could be on a heavy metal album cover. It's just what I have to do.
Yeah, dude, Gobblepalooza and the Trog bosses are so fucking awesome.
Mangler Squigs.
They're so fanciful.
Like the freaking Fanatics, which I love, like...
Oh, and the Boingy Boys with their little proud helmets. And fucking, yeah, it's just...
Like the ones, so like, losing control of the Boingy Boy, and, like, it's so, like, the movement there, it's what great-looking models. And it's just because I think they've gotten better. They got more space to play with now because they're on the circle bases instead of, like, lockstep squares.
Yeah, that changes everything. And someone should do a show about that. Because that's a great point.
Yeah, someone should.
Specifically talking about going to circle bases aesthetically changes everything, and we're now seeing the fruits of that in the models.
Yes.
You don't have to have everything regimented up shoulder to shoulder like their D&D party trying to fit 3x3. through a tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the Ogre Bull model in Gutbusters. That guy looks like he's in a straight jacket who's falling forward onto his face. Why? Because they were on square bases that were too small for him. And they had to be scrunched up inside of a bullet train, you know. And then all now the models themselves have room to breathe. Yes, they can go a little too far, like with the Black Coach, which in total, front and back, probably leans over its base 6 full inches, like a pile-in distance on the front and in the back. So way too far. But again, AOS. I'd rather them go too far than have a bunch of ogres that look like they're dominoes that are in the process of falling over each other.
Yeah, see, I love the Frank here brings up best Ogors. I actually love the best Ogor sculpts, but they're like, I always call them like 3/4 a thrall, and what it is that they're not allowed to like, you know, be like lurching and really arcing out the axe.
They didn't have the freedom to be designed in such a way so they can breathe a little bit, a little room to expand.
If they had the thrall,
square those shoulders up a little bit, yeah.
If they had the thrall posings, they'd be just absolutely like 10 out of 10s. As it stands, I think they're 8 out of 10s, and then it's my thing, or 7 out of 10s or 8 out of 10s. But then my personality makes it a 10 out of 10 for me. But I know it's like artificially there. If I step back down to the objective, I'll go like, yeah, they're lacking that movement that like the thralls have. They're lacking that like ability to just be in a different pose. They're certainly constrained by formerly being on square bases, you know. And I mean, Catacross in specific, I think is really like pushing the limits of what even a model should be at this point. You know, like
it's literally a diorama. Like that's his base. It's a diorama, and I love it. I think it's awesome.
And Grimghast went a little too far.
Surely there's, yeah, maybe. Well, yeah, they lean too far over, sure. But yeah, I like the fact that it's a diorama. I don't think they should start doing that for all of them. But what makes it is that his character is so arrogant that of course he's the one with a diorama for a base. It's perfect. It just it wraps it all up.
Yeah, it's perfectly wrapped up. And by Grimghast going too far, like it's the scythe is the one step way too far for me. Where like the scythes are like impractical on the table. They hook together constantly. But again,
they just hook on stuff. Yeah.
They hook constantly. Like they're just a kind of a nightmare. And I don't dislike the models. Like I'm like they're cool. But in 3 or 4 casts ago now, I was just like, you know what's lacking for Grimghast Reapers is Grim Reapers are sweet, but underneath the robes there's a skeleton, and Grimghasts are just like, they don't have that skeleton like to anchor it, but that's just me.
Yeah, they're just ethereal.
Yeah.
And would they have had skeletons under them if Bonereapers weren't already in the gestation period?
Mm-hmm.
Possible. But we got to keep things pretty distinct, and they have. That's why I don't think they're going to come out with a zombie faction, because Flesh Eater kind of covers that. It's their own spin on zombies. Not keyword zombie, but, I mean, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think Wrathmongers suffer from the square. Like, they have those, like, really... They're borderline symmetrical poses, too.
Yeah, some models don't suffer for being on square. But there are some pretty good examples of them doing it. And a lot of the circle bases... were allowed to be this interesting because of circle bases. Mm-hmm. Like they didn't have to care quite so much about what kind of stuff hooks off the edge of things, because you didn't have to regiment everybody up anymore.
Mm-hmm. And even then, Wrathmongers, I think weren't they a quote unquote skirmish unit back in Warhammer Fantasy Battle? I could be way wrong. Like how Fanatics were a skirmish unit.
Personally, I didn't play Fantasy, so I have no frame of reference. I don't even. If you asked me, did Wrathmongers come out before Age of Sigmar? I don't even know, because I never played Fantasy, so I don't have any.
Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. Just baseless speculation at that point.
Long story short, good comment. Could be an entire show, but we covered it here. So if anyone does, then we talked about it first. Got him. Yeah. And I'm sad that Ogre Bulls, our basic unit, are not getting a new model, because we saw them in promotional material, and I'm sad because I think Ogres entirely could do for a design model-wise from circle base, allowing them to be big and hanging over and all this other cool stuff, instead of kind of like they're all ready to get put into a tube in Futurama, you know, or the bank.
Well, Beast Claw Raiders did get
BCR
that.
BCR is fine, but I'm talking like Gutbuster Ogre, you know, Bulls, the basic battle line, guys like that. Even Iron Guts to a certain degree.
Also can't co-sign them suffering the square base syndrome. That's fine. That's fine. On Wrathmongers or Ogres now, because there's a chat delay. Because Wrathmongers I do think are good sculpts. I just don't think they go all the way enough, I guess, if it would be my criticism.
They have those wiggly hammers. I don't know when they were being designed. Did they know what was going to happen? I don't know.
Like they're like, they move like chains that just don't seem correct to me. Like, because they're like wiggly and stuff. I'm like, that's not what a chain does with a weight on the end of it.
Yeah, they should be like whipping, you know, where yeah. They have kind of the Trogdor the Burninator kind of chain.
Yeah.
When really you would be spinning it, you know? But anyway.
They don't catch as much as you think.
It's a lashing action, okay.
Oh, like it's coiling up? Except, so he's like coiling the one model's just like coiling the two off to the sides, and it's
like he's so like, strong that he cracks it like a whip. Like, that's how strong they are because of corn power. That there's a fucking hammer end. Like just the wrist. Like that's all he needs because of corn juice. Yeah.
He's just like,
sure, I'll buy it. I'll buy that.
That's fine. No, I don't mind the Wrathmonger sculpts. Just someone else just brought them up. I had to give. It like cracked like a whip, and it's just got like an anvil on the ends. He's just like, what? All right, I'm for it. Like, I'm for
Minor
it.
killers, yeah, I bet so. I guess so.
Yeah, like they're just like,
yeah. No, 100%. I buy that.
No, I'm for this.
Yep. I mean, why do you think people worship corn in the first place? Like, they want to become strong. Like, this is fucking strong.
Yeah, this is how strong you are.
Sure.
This is how strong you get. That's fine.
I mean, it's a pyramid scheme of blood, but
chains constantly breaking. I can imagine.
Yo, I got that on my chain traps for Beast Claw Raiders as well. I must say, because you have chain traps on Beast Rider versions, even though like the stats for that thing suck, so nobody ever uses them, but they look cool. It's that bear trap on a chain that they just whip at you. And the bear trap's like the size of your entire torso, and it hooks you and they pull you in. Those things snap so easily. I've glued those back on to the custom butcher I made who just dual wielding those probably 3 times. And one of them I just left it off. I'm like, fuck it. This thing, every time I travel with it, every event it breaks, and then I glue it back on.
Well,
then it breaks on the way home, and I just put it next to it on the shelf. I'm like, you know what?
You gotta just start. You just gotta start like Mark Ram checking it. All chain on any of his models is real chain.
Yeah, it's more super glue than plastic. It's like Darth Vader. The trick to it is never breaking it the first time, because then it's good. Then you're good. It's just gonna wobble around a little bit. But if you break it once, that's it. You've started. You know, things have been put into motion that cannot be undone.
I'm still losing my mind.
It's just eventually going to be just glue. All the way down the chain. It's just a chain of glue.
I'm still losing my mind over the Vader quote. It's more glue than... Yeah,
chain reaction.
It starts a chain reaction. Yeah, no, as far just real quick with the Grimgas Reapers, they get a little hooky. The bigger base helps them, though. If those were on 25s, they'd be the biggest nightmare on the planet. But, like, they're not the worst. I think regular skeletons with spears are actually worse, because the way they lean off their base, they're just constant.
Dryads are also famously
Dryads
bad.
too, yeah.
Dryads are leaning forward just as much as skeletons are, which is way too much. Everybody's Michael Jackson. They're leaning at like a fucking 50-degree angle. Mm-hmm. But then Dryads have giant hook claws that can hook in everything and each other, and a bunch of stuff on their backs, and then you're supposed to put them in a goddamn wildwood.
Yeah.
So Dryads are just, you know, I hesitate to say the most, but we're live, so top 5 most annoying model to move around the table. And then they gave it rules to fucking teleports. You're moving them all the time.
Yeah. Skeletons, their lack of weight also works against them, so that's another one.
Yeah, because they'll topple. They have top. They're they're playing Xenoblade. They have topple ability.
Topple ability, right on. So like that's where like imperfection is like a functional imperfection. That's not the kind of imperfection I'm talking about when I talk about art and models. I'm talking about like artistic imperfection. So keep that in mind. If one of the first rules of doing anything is, does this work, right? Like, does this solve the problem? Does it solve the problem I'm trying to solve? Does it create a new problem? Is it the best way to solve the problem I'm trying to solve, right? That's like the how you go down the list of like when you're designing something practical, right? Man, gnarly. I get it.
I got it. Puns are always welcome.
Yeah.
As Alfred Hitchcock once said, puns are the highest form of literature.
So we're approaching.
Happy accidents are a real thing, of course. Yeah, you can Bob Ross the shit out of it. That's the great part about it. And if your happy accident isn't so happy because it ends up looking bad, it's paint, so you get to paint over it. It's perfect.
Right. Yeah, happy accidents really a thing.
It's a big Vince push. Is like dare to try. I can't remember, be daring or dare to try. He's got a phrase for it.
He talks about being fearless.
Yeah.
He talks about
the first time I was on his show, I think he's like, "Oh, what are you working on for hobby?" And I wasn't prepared for the question. This is the first time I was ever on his show, and I'm like, "Well, I just chopped off half of Nagash's head and took a Dremel to it." And he's like, "Brother, I like it. Be daring."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, if I fuck up, then I get to learn how to use green stuff. It's just, every time you screw up, it allows you to be able to learn something else."
Right.
Paint like nobody's watching. That's a good one.
Paint bravely.
Paint bravely. Paint bravely. That's it.
Paint bravely might be.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And that goes into like the artistic imperfections. Those things like that makes it your model. It makes it yours. It makes it, and that extends into the layers of things when you're assembling the model. Like provided it doesn't compromise functionality, and even then some of that might be all right. But like as long as it fits the function, then the form can be, whatever. If it provided it doesn't get in the way, you can go with the weird color schemes. You can do that stuff. It makes it yours. It makes it personal. It won't be for everybody because subjective versus objective, right? But if you're technically and objectively good, like you observe great color, like you have a good eye for color, and you're doing all the techniques you should, but then you just choose like wacky colors. Now your army's gonna fucking look great because you've taken the rule and you've broken it for a specific reason, but then you've observed all the other rules of it. So, that's just fun. So is there anything about ogres you wanted to say before we? Yeah, blue corn. Oh, dude, blue corn looked fantastic. I saw a couple shots of blue corn.
Blue corn looks super cool.
Looked really good.
That was always my, first principles, right? My first problem with corn was that most of the color schemes are red. But it's corn. So you gotta splatter blood on everything.
Yeah.
And how are you gonna layer red blood on top of red guys? Doesn't work.
White and green I could see.
Could work, but yeah, so you gotta go different colors on that corn to spray a proper amount of blood on them. And blue works fine. In fact, blue works very well because everybody knows the orange and blue dynamic. If you've ever looked at a Blu-ray cover for any movie ever, blue and orange, because they've discovered that that's just a pleasing contrast for the human eye.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to drop in...
Who knew? I'm on the show and then I'm talking movies all the time.
But, yeah. No, there's nothing wrong with it. Like, especially with the RantCast format, because it's kind of bringing in your RL...
There's only one wrong color scheme, and it's the one on the box. I wouldn't... Yeah? I don't know. No. I'll say no. It's not wrong. It's just usually their color schemes are chosen to accentuate the sculpt and not necessarily to make the best looking thing. So they've chosen their color schemes based on that. And you're probably not going to, and there are much better ones available. Some of the default color schemes are actually quite nice, but admittedly, most of them, at least when you're clicking through the website, are definitely not.
How do you explain?
Then how do I explain Ultramarines? It's a pun, and they made it up in 1980. And they've been a slave to tradition ever since. That's how I would explain.
Yeah.
The color of the guys is the color ultramarine. And so the whole thing is based on a massive pun that they didn't think would get carried this far. But now they're chained to tradition.
Yeah, it's kind of like Final Fantasy. Like
also,
it was supposed to be the Final
everyone
Fantasy.
hate Ultramarines? I'm not like a big 40k guy, but I thought everybody didn't like Ultramarines because they're boring or something. I'm not sure. I can't really speak to 40k. I don't know very much about it. I know about the lore and about the memes, but I don't play it. Cobalt Marines. Cobalt Marines kind of sound cool. It's not. It doesn't sound bad.
Cyan Marines.
An N next to an M in the middle? Nah.
All right. Well, but
I'd like to buy a vowel between those two if I could, just so it flows better.
Fair enough. Thalo Marines.
Yeah, Thalo Marines.
Fatal Blue.
Thalo Blue.
Yeah, I get the Thalo Blue.
burnt umber as well. You're gonna put some magic white on the back of there.
Just so it beat the devil at the brush.
I'm sorry, white.
Gotta beat the devil out of it. That was like my favorite Bob Rossism. Beat the devil out of it. Just like this brush. I don't know why I get a kick out of that. Is there anything you wanted to talk about with Ogres while I have you here? Anything with BCR, anything like that?
I will always talk about Ogres. Everything's just an excuse to talk about Ogres. Sure. So I did some, in quotes, prediction / this could be cool, rules-wise for Bonereapers. Let's do the same thing for Maw tribes.
All right, let's go.
Specifically the Gutbuster half and not the Beastclaw half.
Okay.
Because I'm afraid to think about what Beastclaw, what direction they could go with BC.
Okay.
Because I want to be fresh with it.
All right.
The only thing I hope about BCR is that the best way to play them is the way everybody really wants to play them.
With the big, just
you want 5 Stonehorns. Okay, there's 2 types of Beastclaw players. There's Stonehorn Beastclaw players and Thundertusk Beastclaw players.
There's a right and a wrong,
and it's fine.
With everything, with many things.
And it's fine. Like, Thundertusk looks sweet. I can't say they're wrong.
Your Thundertusk, in particular, is one of my favorite.
With the cannon of the Sky Titan chained up on a swivel, yeah.
I'm sure everyone
somebody asked me on my, I think it was like a comment on YouTube or something. They're like, how come you put the cannons on there? And they wanted the story behind it. And the fact that they asked for the story behind it makes me a little suspicious, because surely they know there's a story behind it if they're asking for a story behind this thing, right? Like, right. And having seen it in real life. Anyway, I didn't write that comment on somebody else's account, I swear. But yeah, long ago, I was playing Beastclaw when they were bad, which is like now, except they were much worse before 2nd edition. They were much worse. Way worse. Because they didn't have Ethereal. So actually there was nothing good in the entire army. Just everything was shit. And so whenever I played against anyone, nobody knew what anything did, because nobody plays Beastclaw. And so I had a Thundertusk there and a Stonehorn next to him. And the person had never seen them before. They'd never played against them. They're like, okay, which one shoots again? And that was a question asked of me, sometimes multiple times per game after I already told them. Probably 4 or 5 games locally. And so I'm like, which one shoots, huh? And then you hear like drill bit noises and paint flying everywhere and scraping and everything. Like, I'll show. No one will ever ask which one shoots again. I mean, are you going to look at these 2 monsters and ask which one shoots? You are not.
Yeah, so I pulled up. These are Heywoahs. This was Midwest Meltdown, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I see my skeletons are in the rack, so this had to be Midwest Meltdown. Or
Oh yeah, that was the doubles tournament. You're looking at 1,250 points. Like, this is an army. It might just look like the command portion of the army. No, this is the army. I mean, it's doubles, but still. So yes, that's seven models there. Were my army.
So here we have the cannon. What's this bit you've used here?
That's the cannon of the Sky Titans from the Gutbuster kit. It could be a Grot Scrap Launcher or it could be an Iron Blaster.
Okay.
It's a dual kit.
All right.
And I took the cannon out of it and chained it to his arm and the maul pole so he can swivel to shoot it. Because you got to think about how it's going to work, right?
Right.
And so he swivels it around in his arm and aims it at what he wants to get. And I mean, that's 6 mortal wounds. Who's gonna, like? People complain like 6 mortal wounds. Okay, back in the day they did. Now 6 mortal wounds, it's fucking nothing. But back then, like 6 mortal wounds. It looks like it does 6 mortal wounds. You're not going to hear an argument, right? Like, it shoots like a torpedo.
Yeah, and
like
so
from a submarine at somebody.
Oh, so like, and here we have the imperfection thing. Like, this is not, the model there. Like, it's supposed to be the tusks, right? That shoot the snowball.
Actually, it comes from the art in the book. It comes out of the creature's mouth.
Is it the mouth?
And the tusks are there to like gather the energy and loop it back around in like a Star Destroyer kind of thing and shoot it out. And it's winter magic or what?
Yeah, winter magic. I like that you have the charred metal here on the.
Yeah, I gave it gun barrel warping color. Mm-hmm. So they're normally bronze tusks because bronze conducts electricity, and I was kind of going for a little bit of an electrical frost storm. And so it starts out as that, and then it dips into purple and blue and eventually charred like matte black because it's been shooting these frost wreath ice, over and over until the tusks start to warp into his color. And, hobby is fun because you get to come up with reasons for things looking like they do, or consider like, well, how is he going to aim that thing? Well, chain it to the maul pole and he can swivel it like a turret,
This
or
is a real.
How come the hunter is on a quote 50 millimeter base, but he's standing on this massive pile of rocks and snow with a face on it? Well, it's because in Beastclaw culture, imagine being a Beastclaw raider. They're like, who are the king of the guys from Game of Thrones? The horse rider men. What are they called? Dothraki.
Yeah, Dothraki.
Dothraki. When you fall off your horse, you're dead. You're no longer a man, right? Like, It's so important to be mounted and high up. And the hunter is actually the general because of how the rules happen to be written. Because he has to be the general. And so I'm like, well, he's the general. He cannot suffer being like physically lower than other people in the army. So I'm putting him on this massive, so he's at least, at eye level with the other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, this is fantastic. I just love it. And you had to just go bravely with your snow as well.
I went a little too bravely with my snow. It's hard to stop. So I know how snow tends to lay on objects because I live in Wisconsin. However, this is my first army I ever finished painting models for. Like, ever completed a model. And the color choices are very good because I'm good with color. And I'm kind of naturally artistic, even though it's a different style of painting. But now, 3 years later, if you really zoom in, like, I wish I could go back and fix some of this stuff, but I put a whole shitload of snow on it, so I actually can't, and I played myself. So there is that, but still be daring. Because new ogres come out, I have behind me, if I was on camera, which I'm not, you couldn't see because the lights are off, but I could turn them on, a shelf with so many bits. I got 2 boxes of lead belchers and 2 boxes of iron guts and the old Gutbuster decapitator man with the pole chain hook, decapitation hook.
Mm-hmm.
And my Mournfang are going to be Iron Guts riding Mournfang, so even bigger with even more armor and stuff. And whatever leaders and stuff happen to come out that are going to be on the big beasts, I'm putting like Decapitator Man on there, and there's going to be that Ogre Ninja, and he's in a certain pose with like one of his feet kind of crooked. He's going to be like hanging off of it with one arm on it and another one kind of crooked down, sort of like a Mad Max hanging off of the side of crazy vehicles. And so it's going to be nuts. And so, yeah, I kind of screwed myself with the snow, but like new stuff comes out and it's good, you're going to want to hobby the shit out of it anyway. And so, yeah, this is cool, and it's good for where I was at back then.
Mm-hmm.
But new Beastclaw Raiders, when the book comes out, it's going to double down on the concept of Beastclaw Raiders are Mad Max, except they're driving Stonehorns instead of motorcycles and monster trucks.
Right.
Just like, we're talking like 4 or 5 ogres just hanging off, swinging shit around, hooting and hollering, just all the nonsense. It's gonna be great.
Perfect. Yeah.
And hopefully the best way to play them isn't a shitload of cats and yetis, because it's currently true. But going way back to my original point, yeah, Mad Lads, right? I hope the best way to play Beastclaw is the way every Beastclaw Raider in the whole world wanted to play them and bought them so that they could play them, which is as many behemoths as humanly possible, and just hope the rules say that, like, just hope the rules happen to make that the best way to go.
Yeah, you want
that's what everybody fucking wants. I mean,
you want the Grizzlegore
the litmus test, yeah, the finger on the pulse of the Beastclaw Raiders community. Yes, we would like to play 5 Stonehorns and somehow just get objectives, right?
Yeah.
Like, whether it be large and in charge or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the hope.
Yeah, we want the large and in charge, your wounds remaining, count for models when capturing.
No limit on behemoths. I'll keep a limit on behemoths if Stonehorns are just 400 points each. I don't care as long as they're good, right? Like, right. I'll pay 400 points for a Stonehorn. I'll pay 500. If they're Gotrek, except 12-inch run and charge, or if they're like, fucking, what's his name? Like Velocita.
Yeah.
For 460.
Yeah.
Like, he's worth 460. Dude's amazing.
440, but yeah.
Or 440, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't need 5. I'll take 4 if they're fucking good, right? So. Slow down.
Slow down. Yeah. Yeah, I've got skin in the game on this because I want my friends to have the things they like in this game because I like playing with my friends. And it tends to extend to people that I know beyond a cursory, hey, what I consider a friend. Like, for instance, Tristan...
5 Gotreks except 12-inch run and charge. Make it so.
That's your army. 4 of them.
No, I don't want to be I don't want to be the next Slaanesh, because I don't want to be that guy who's like, please don't nerf, it's not as good as you think. Like, you don't
want to be that.
My real hope for where we land metagame-wise is, like, fat metal. Like,
yeah,
this army is legit, you have the tools to succeed, and your stuff's just good, but the entire community isn't in an upwelling of complaints about how obviously OP everything is, right?
Yeah.
Because also, as a list builder type, which comes from Magic, it's way more fun to take a tier 2 thing and then find some secret spice and tune it up with some, low-key heat and do well.
Absolutely.
Then look at Slaanesh and be like, wow, there really is just like one build and it's the best, huh? It's boring. That skips the fun part.
Yeah, and
the fun part is coming up with the list.
Yeah, and the difference between
one of the fun parts.
The difference between like a 3 and 2 player and a 4 and 1 player with it is like indistinguishable with Slaanesh. 5 and 0 players are a different breed, but like it's so hard with that army to tell the difference between once you've got to the skill floor with it, like you've climbed the stairs up and now you're at the skill floor. It's beyond approaching the skill ceiling, it's kind of indistinguishable. Like, I want to know that I piloted my army well and did well, Not that like my list just dragged me through a tournament,
Raylan says, "How about your stuff is OP, but nobody else wants to play it or build it, and nobody knows it's good because of how difficult the strategy of running in and killing everything is." So like Gloomspite's actually really good. It's just nobody wants to buy 120 fucking stabs.
Right.
So nobody does. Like,
right.
Yeah, that's a fine place to be.
I think
that being said, is this the most Timmy army ever? Yeah. Imagine 5 behemoths of the army, but it's actually good.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
There's no way it's not going to be popular.
Yeah.
I mean, every time you go to Facebook one time, and there's somebody, hey, I'm thinking about getting into the game. What's an elite army I can play? You could copy paste that question and read it every day, like, because it would be kind of an inexpensive way to enter the game, and people like elite models. So like, there's no way it's not going to be popular if it's good.
Right.
But who knows? Maybe we have enough like crazy shit out there that,
Well, and then you're getting into the Three Stooges effect.
That if it's even not quite the best, if it's like 2 steps down from the best, it'll plateau out in the sea of, people just being excited about all sorts of stuff that's 2 steps away from the best.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
like,
for instance,
is still great, but a bunch of people don't play it because it's expensive.
It's expensive, and some people don't want to play it.
It's $60 for 10 Witch Elves.
Mm-hmm.
That's why nobody plays Daughters of Cain.
Right.
The few people who do are still doing very well with it, but there it is.
Yeah. Well, there you have it.
But as far as Maw Tribe's prediction of like rules and stuff, unless you had a comment.
No, the only thing I was going to say is I think there's a direct correlation between Timmy armies and what's played, and then good armies and what's played, and then from there it kind of disperses out.
And for a brief, beautiful moment, they overlapped, and that was 5 Terrorgeist Feck.
Happened with me and LON, well, no, that wasn't a Timmy. That wasn't Timmy. Timmy was the 5
Terrorgeist. Was the thing, but yeah. The 5 Terrorgeist version was not the best way to play that army, not even close. But it was still
so good
really
that
good.
It didn't matter. Yeah. For a brief moment.
Yeah, the Timmy army accidentally became the Spike army at the same time. They did have a Johnny army, and I'm very sad that Corn Pops was nerfed in various ways. I was truly sad. But then they made Slanesh, which is better than Corn Pops. And it's how you're supposed to do it. It's not an exploit. So who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
But for Maw Tribes, this one is tricky. Because Maw Tribes, Gutbusters, like Cities of Sigmar, is an old guy faction. What's the first thing you should ever ask when you're about to create anything? Who's my audience?
Yeah, who's my audience? Who can I sell this to?
Well, right? The audience for Gutbusters and Maw Tribes is old guys who played fantasy and have a billion ogres.
Beasts of Chaos too. It's the what I call...
Yeah, well they fell flat on their face on that one because all the old guys wanted to play with Bulgors and Gorgons, and look at that. But anyway, gone over that. And so you want to, rules wise, have at least something there that's old. So like, as far as Allegiance abilities, you could say, choose like 2 things that currently work some way that people tend to like that play the faction. I'm thinking of
the wounding thing where they heal, right? You want the regen to stick around in some form.
Well, they don't heal when they do damage.
Oh, I thought they did. I thought they
don't
ate
have
people.
anything. They don't have
they ate
anything.
People. Oh god, they don't eat people?
Well, they eat people in the stories, but they don't have rules.
Oh.
Gutbusters have no allegiance abilities right now. This is how ignored they are. But they don't have allegiance abilities at all. Their only allegiance abilities are battle line if. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
But so we have a tyrant who on a 6, not natural, but a 6 or more to wound does double damage. And tyrant with Gyre Strike is a fairly common combo, which means you need 5s now, and you roll a big name at the beginning of the game, and on a certain one, it's possible to get +1 to wound. And you can get +1 to wound as well with a command trait, but a lot of people go Wild Fury instead just for more attacks because it's actually better.
Mm-hmm.
So this dude is rolling 4, perhaps 5, and doing double damage on his 3 damage weapon and hitting people for 6, 3 or 4 times while hitting and wounding on 2s. And to me, that's like critting.
Yeah, you're crit fishing.
And so I want to keep that. I want to make that an allegiance ability.
Okay.
I want 6s to wound army wide, do double damage. So like the 2 damage your ogres are normally doing are 4 instead, and the 3 damage your leaders are doing are 6 instead. But it's to wound, which makes it bad, and it's natural 6s.
There you go. That's like 1 in 12, right?
Yeah, because most of them hit on 4s. Some of them hit on 3s. But it's like a jackpot. And I think I tweeted about this or something, where it's like every time that happens, you get a resource. Whenever you crit, it's a jackpot.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get money, or whatever, some resource or something like that. And so you keep track of that, and then these resources, these bags of gold you have from striking the jackpot,
mm-hmm.
by totally critically hitting someone, we can bring in the Over Tyrant, and he had some specific name in the old world, but I don't know what it is. He's the model that technically he's compendium. He's the ogre that's so huge he can't even walk, and he's carried by a bunch of rots.
That's right. Yeah.
And he bribes people. Like, he starts the game with 3 bags of gold, and you can spend it to bribe people, so that like they're worse at hitting or they move slower or something like that. Mm-hmm. And you can bribe your own guys to be better by using them. And so I want Gutbusters to have a casino theme where you're critting on natural 6s to wound, and you keep track of them, and you get money for that. Because the leader is like, okay, boys, everybody who gets the biggest hit or whatever, Grius' gold tooth, that's it, thanks, Symbol. And then you can spend that gold to bribe people and get buffs or debuffs for your enemies or something like that. And that's kind of fun, because that pulls in some old stuff and some current stuff, and then their other 1 or 2 allegiance abilities are, the reimagining thing, where it's like new. So you have something old, something new. It seems like, since they eat people, doing damage and gaining life somehow seems like a shoo-in, but maybe it's a little too obvious. They gutted that kind of stuff from Skull Reapers, where you have to keep track of stuff,
Depravity.
But not for allegiance ability.
Depravity.
They did it for.
Oh, go ahead.
They did that for units, but not for allegiance abilities.
Yeah. So it's army-wide.
This is just another corruption point, or depravity, or blood tithe. There are things you keep track of for allegiance abilities, and that seems to be fine. But keeping track of leveling up counters per unit on a unit's war scroll, like Wrathmongers, Skull Reapers, seems to be going away.
The reason it's fine for allegiance abilities versus not on like individual war scrolls is because an allegiance ability is a constant. So every time the situation occurs, you just go, this is what I get.
Yeah, and an allegiance ability is something you get. You put the chips near you, or you put the die near you, and it's like something you're getting.
Yes.
But you're already tracking wounds on a person on the table. So you have a little die next to them tracking wounds, and you have another die next to them tracking some other thing, and, that's a little problematic just from playing the game. Like, oh, which one is the, wounds again? And there's already half the time when you're playing the game, you ask people, are you counting up or down on that? Now imagine counting up or down. Okay, and then how many bags of gold does this unit have? Oh, that's 3? Oh, I thought that was wounds. Oh, yeah, that's right. And just kind of creates a messy situation on the table.
Yeah, like the... I don't know. I don't play with multi-wound models a whole lot. Like my skeletons are making a cameo here in this shot.
Yeah, and the only, like, the closest I have to single wound models is the Frost Sabers, which have 2. But in my head, they don't even have 2. I just take them off whenever anyone attacks them to save time. Because they have a 6-up save and 2 wounds apiece, and they're in units of 2. Like, they're there to chaff up something that's going to do 50 damage. Like, all right, you did 50 damage. There were 4 wounds there on a 6-up save. You did it.
Yeah.
All right, my turn.
Right, and then you drive a dump truck into them and crash. So Maw Tribes, the only model we've really seen is that Tyrant.
Yeah, and I think that's the only. It's going to be a new Tyrant and a new Butcher, and that's it.
So it's gonna be like a
I
Skaven
heavily
thing.
suspect that.
It's gonna be like a Skaven thing where Skaven got the Globadier and that, or not the Globadier, they got the Grenadier and that was like it.
They got the Grenader and they got the terrain piece, and that's it.
Yeah. So
I think it's going to be new Tyrant, new Butcher, and then probably terrain piece, and that's it. I think this one actually is. I'm calling it. Like, this is my prediction.
That's your prediction?
It's not a prediction I give happily, because I really did want basic Ogres and Iron Guts and stuff to have sculpts with circular bases in mind and stuff, but I just don't think that's in the cards for the oldest armies that nothing was really done with, like a lot of the things in Cities and Ogres specifically.
Well, my prediction is that Cities does get new kits. Like, I'm predicting that.
I think it will.
Like, they got, because the quote-unquote handful of models thing, I think they're retiring a handful of models, and then they're going to get, like, a less than a handful, because, like, a handful ended up being a massive handful. Like, they're going to get, like...
There's no way they can't get some new named hero sculpts. Right. And I think there aren't going to be terrain pieces. There was a rumor or something, no terrain for Cities.
I think what they're going to do with Cities is they're going to use this as an opportunity to world build. And good night, Tristan.
Yeah, which is perfect, which is a great idea.
And they're also going to, because we saw the modular stuff coming through with, like, the Sigmar terrain, I think we're going to see some modular city terrain, but not for the army. And I think that's a little bit more the route they're going to go. It's like you can build a city wall for some random city and make your table look more interesting and visual. So I think they've got a really nice design space for doing that. For just, like, modeling in general and extra things to add to your game. I don't know that we'll see a terrain piece because it kind of doesn't make sense. You have all these different cities. What one piece is going to unite them all, right? Like, that's a puzzle in and of itself.
A real cannon.
Just a cannon. They always have
just
one
a cannon,
siege.
a giant
one
cannon.
siege
the
weapon.
Ones where the team of people works on it,
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Okay. I mean, it's not an
actually no, because what is it? Greywater Fastness is the cannon city, and so not really. But I don't think there's going to be terrain for Cities.
Maybe not. We'll and I bet you Maw Tribes can get it. Will end up getting one though.
A giant statue of Sigmar holding up Azir like Atlas.
Yeah, like he's
with
holding
a ring around it with a ring around it like Saturn, and then little winged lightning boots,
Raelun
like
nailed
Mars, or not Mars, Neptune.
Raelun nailed it. It's just a cod piece and a feather in the cap. Like,
well, now we're doubling up because we already have that with Bone Chad.
Oh yeah, you're right. You can't come in
dueling cods. I suppose that would be the story box.
Bucket
Battle
Ninja.
for Cod Pass, and it's just the art is just like waist of both of those on the front.
It's just the waist down, and it's like the two waists, like in the Bucket Ninja here asked a question. Any thoughts on the idea of BCR gaining a priest, or maybe expand that to like Maw Tribes as well, like so we can talk about as Maw.
I think Maw Tribes has magic and Beastclaw has prayers.
Okay.
I don't think Beastclaw has wizards because they don't. They're shamans and they pray.
Yeah.
They don't have the priest keyword, but the way Thundertusk Huskard on Thundertusk currently works is it works mechanically exactly like a prayer, except it doesn't call it a prayer. That's it. Like
right.
Otherwise, it's exactly the same. You roll a die, you choose one of two things to happen. It happens on X up.
Right.
It's not a spell. None of them can unbind.
And then,
I feel like Beastclaw are going to be shamanistic. They're going to have priests, and Maw Tribes are going to have Gutbusters are going to have the wizards.
All right.
I think probably it's safe to say that all Huskard types are probably going to be priests, even the one on Stonehorn.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like Frost Lords are the guys in charge of everything, and then Huskards are the priests, and then Beast Riders are the battle line, and that's how it is.
It gives a good split of the unit types too, though.
See the Hunter definitely becoming a priest as well, because he currently has kind of a thing like that.
Mm-hmm.
And a prayer book, almost certainly.
So you get prayer lores.
That's a decent way to go with it.
Yeah. They've also opened you up to get. I know you don't necessarily want like endless spells, but judgments for Khorne, they've opened you up to receive endless. If they're not going to give you any new models, the way they give you new models is by giving you endless spells, right? So, so like here you go.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably going to be the case that Maw Tribes itself gets a terrain piece. But I don't think it's going to be a Gutbuster terrain piece and a Beastclaw terrain piece. I think it's going to be like the Maw Tribe book gets a terrain piece.
Right.
An endless buffet. Yeah, instead of Everwinter, it's like, the Ever buffet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, Hunter himself doesn't do anything, but in your list he does stuff. Like, you make him the general so that you can have the cheapest battle line qualifying things ever. Truly in the whole game, I think. You can satisfy a 2,000 points of battle line for 120 total points if your hunter is already the general. So 240, I suppose.
That's kind of on. I mean, you can get 3 battle
which is very cheap. His war scroll is like laughably bad, but I've gone over that before. He does have a thing where you can eschew his 2 really bad ranged attacks to instead roll a die, and on a 3 or 4 up, he does a D3 mortal wounds within 6 inches because of his frost breath. So having a roll and then needing some target number and then doing a little tiny minuscule frost wreath dice, yeah, he's probably a priest.
Yeah. Yeah. Is this a cod piece on him? The wolf head cod piece, is that stock for the model, or is that a?
You have 2 options. You have a giant lion head, or you have an elongated, goofy-looking skull that looks dumb. And I went for the huge lion head. Oh yeah, 240 for the. It's possible I said 280 out loud by accident, but yeah, it's 240 for battle line.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Well, no, not for artifact and command point. You have to take a skull for artifact and command point, which is a battalion that's another 100 odd points.
Right.
Like, it's even yet more for that. But if we're just talking about like the cheapest you can get battle line satisfied for is 240.
Not
you
the
can
whole
make
game.
a 1-drop and get an artifact and stuff.
Not in the whole game. I can do it in death for
It's
180. Because I can buy zombies.
60-60, yeah, 60-60 and 60. Pretty close though.
But like for a leader and the zombies,
it's reasonably cheap, yeah.
For a leader and the zombies, it puts me up to 240 because my cheapest hero is 60. So like that's consistency right there. Is I can do 240. I can do 240 to get all that.
Skinks went up. Raylan, yeah, Skinks got increased in price in the last GHB. Not because Seraphon was too good, they're not, but because other armies were allying in Skinks, because those armies were poorly written enough not to have any good battle line units. And so because some other army was stealing your men, you get punished with your guys going up. Just brilliant design.
Straight fire.
sorry, Stormcast. I have no idea why Liberators are that bad and that expensive, but they've written 4 books with that same mistake unfixed, and so I don't know what to tell you. How many times can they make the Stormcast book and give it the same problems? I don't know.
Several. All.
How come you can't have paladins as battle line? Why isn't there some hero to take that lets you do that? It's just like so basic. How come Liberators are terrible? On massive bases. No attacks. So bad. Anyway. How many is infinity? It is that which there is not greater than, I guess. I don't know, like what am I supposed to define?
So I think that wraps up kind of everything I wanted to touch on, which is be happy about Bonereapers more. Talk about how I am mortal, in that I had a model I was lukewarm on for like half a second until a meme came out, and then I jumped all the way back up to loving everything about the army purely like aesthetically. The challenge I'm going to run into is the opposite of some others out there where I don't know what to convert to get my conversion points on a a little checklist for the hobby aspect because I like the aesthetic so much already.
Give the harvester another 4 legs.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Yeah. So I changed the harvester in some way.
Like if, let's say harvester is the turtle.
Mm-hmm.
Like let's just say he's the turtle of Bonereapers.
Mm-hmm.
So he sucks.
Yeah.
And the rules that he has do nothing for your army, like Achillean Leviathan for IDK. Well, if you're playing with Archon, then put Archon riding him, and there's your conversion. That's the mount.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so I got a conversion there. Yeah, like my conversions are probably just gonna be like...
instead of battle line skeletons with shields,
mm-hmm.
you use the samurai guy from the Bone Chad's base, and
just
have every single battle line model be that guy from like a bit site.
I like
so
it.
That your army costs $10,000.
Oh, love it. That's almost as good.
And they're all mono pose.
No, they wouldn't be mono pose. They'd be holding the katana at different angles. I could just everyone. I just like altered a degree up.
Yeah, each one you move their arm and their sword like just a little bit each time. Mm-hmm. So if you look at all of them really fast in order, it's like a zoetrope or it's like a flip book, and you can see him like totally swinging his sword or something.
Yeah, perfect. Have them all be the exact same degree, so that
strike fear into your enemies. Well, striking fear into your enemies is if you would put a price tag on all of them and just keep it there, like when you're moving it around.
Well, that's like the what was it, the most razor gores I could fit into a list, and they're
the most expensive army ever.
It's $50 for one of those fine cast pigs. $50. And so it's like a $2,000 army if you put all the pigs you could into a list, and it's just pigs.
Well, first you fly to New Zealand and then buy it there.
Oh yeah,
because we're game theory. We're trying to make the most expensive army.
Yeah, so you gotta spend dollary dues to get them instead, right?
Yeah.
Plus the plane ticket to fly out and buy them from there. Oh man. All right, yeah. So I covered all the stuff. Big happy about. I am big happy about Ossiarch Bonereapers, obviously, and then Imperfection in like sort of the importance of Imperfection when it comes to like the models, the sculpts, and then just kind of art in general. Yeah, and then ship them back, and then fly back and catch them.
Yeah, what would actually be more expensive, paying for the carry-on for all of that, or shipping it, or international shipping? Similar price, probably, the way planes are going.
Mm-hmm.
It's like $50 a carry-on or something.
I bet you carry-on's more expensive in the long run because they're not carry-on, but checked luggage, because they will get powdered, and then you'll have to do the process all over again. Like they'll just become powder in your luggage. Like just. Oh man. Yeah, and then we had a little speculation on ogres, so I feel pretty good about this cast. Anything you'd like to add? Any shout outs, any at me bros, or plug of any of your stream? If people know me, they know you. I mean, come on. Like they probably stumbled upon my stream because of yours.
Let's see. Vince summoned me on the last show, or like 2 shows ago, I think.
Okay.
But I didn't see that part because it was like one of the few Warhammer weeklies I couldn't watch the whole thing when it was happening.
Mm-hmm.
And he summoned me for some rules question. And so I'm probably going to do a little, like the next video will probably be this fun little thing where I get summoned and answer a rules question and then go back into the, casket or something like that. Like there's pineapple pizza all around me and I'm like rising from it. I don't know what I'll do, but.
So you got a video plan for the next to answer the question on account of being summoned? Perfect.
Yeah, it has to do with Ironjaw's movement and the timing of certain abilities. Basically, you can't. The guy's like, "Can I do this thing?" And the answer is no, and everybody knows the answer is no. But he didn't want to like dig through and find exactly why the answer was no, and so he's like, "Heywoah will do it."
what a wonderful like you're basically like the Warhammer Weekly lawyer.
Yeah.
Like talking to a lawyer.
Tom's pretty lawyerish actually. I'm more interested in finding interesting interactions.
Mm-hmm.
Or silly stuff, I suppose.
Right.
But yeah, people should endeavor to play by the rules, right? Litigious, there you go.
Yeah. Litigious.
Yeah. Litigawios.
We're mispronouncing words. All right. So yeah, go follow Heywoah at Heywoah Twitch. There's an underscore in there for between the Twitch and the Heywoah part on Twitter.
Yeah, I make memes and videos.
If you don't already, and then just Heywoah on YouTube. You got that shit on lockdown. So follow him there. He does videos about twice a month, sometimes more.
It's about twice a month. At one time, it was about once a month, but then I did Patreon, and now it's 2 times a month.
Yeah. So
we're moving up in the world.
Yeah, so Patreon.
All while working on Choose Your Army stuff in the background. Otherwise, it would probably be 2.5 times a month, but don't tell people that.
No, he streams once every 4 years, and he videos on YouTube.
Once every 4 years in real life, yeah.
Yeah.
But YouTube shows twice a month, usually.
Twice a month.
Sometimes 3 if one of them is a meme.
Yep.
Usually it's like, hey, I should stream. But if I should stream, I should probably, like, do a video, right? If I have time to stream, then I have time to make some YouTube video, and that's what people want much more than watching me play No Man's Sky or fucking Classic WoW or something.
Right.
So, yeah,